Thank you. Mount upon you in Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem. Blessing of the Sabbath. Barakatah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushua, Asherah, Etelanawa, Ashabath, Ba'shalawam, Gowada, Amen. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahushua, that gives to us the Sabbath in peace. Thank you. So be it. One. I am Ma'ad, Asherayim Akkad, Psalm 121. Anya, Harayim, Ya, oh, Haharim, my young, Yabuah, Isaiah, Yabuah, my Yahweh, Shai, Shemai, Waratiza, La'a, Yenathan, Lamawat, Regalia, Yala'a, Yenawum, Shashamarka, Hanan, La'a, Yenawum, Wala'a, Yeshua, Shashwamar, Yasharala, Yahweh, Shemaya, Yahweh, Tazaya, Ayah, Yam, Yawamum, Hashemash, La'a, Hakaya, Wayarak, La'a, Balayala, Yahweh, Yashamar, Nakol, Ra, Yashamar, Napasha, Yahweh, Yashamar, Hawalakia, Uboaya, Ma'aitha, I will Bahasham, Yahabusha, the water, Amen.
Psalm 121. I will lift up mine eyes unto the hills, from whence cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord, which made heaven and earth. He will not suffer thy foot to be moved. He that keepeth thee will not slumber. Behold, he that keepeth Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. The Lord is thy keeper. The Lord is thy shade upon thy right hand. The sun shall not smite thee by day, nor the moon by night. The Lord shall preserve thee from all evil. He shall preserve thy soul. The Lord shall preserve thy going out and thy coming in from this time forth, even forevermore. Amen.
Amen. Shema Yashrala, hear Israel. Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Yahweh, Yahweh, Shema Yashrala, Yahweh, Allah Yahweh Shema Yasharallah Yahweh Allah Yahweh.
Deuteronomy 6:4. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one Lord. Amen.
Amen. Allah Yahweh, the Lord's Prayer. Abi Yanawa, Shabbat Shemayim, Kodash, Hayah, Shamka, Yahweh, Malak with Ka, Chaba'ah, Mataz Vanka, Hayah, Aisha, Ba'arataza, Ka, Bashamayim, Matolanawa, Makam, Yawum, Sa, Basalakwana, Kababwathna, Kasalakna, Kababathna, Wala'ah, Habiyah. Oh, Nasaiwan, Abo, Hawashina, Maran, Kaya, Laka, Amalakwa, Waha'ala, Wahata Para, Wa'ayulam, Amen.
Matthew 6:9. After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come. Will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Ha'aisharam Waf, the 10 Commandments. La'ah, Yahaya, Laka, Alahayim, Akarim, Alpanya, La'ah, Taisha, Laka, Haso, Wala'ah, Taibadam, La'ah, Alakwaka, Shumba, Yahweh, Alahaika, Lashua, Zakar, Hayawum, Hashabath, Lakudashwa, Kabad, Abiaka, Amaka. La'ah, Taratazak, La'ah, Tana'ah, La'ah, Daganah, La'ah, Dainah, Shakur, La'ah, Dakaman, Ko, Asherah, Lara'ayaka, Aman.
Exodus 20:2. I am the Lord thy power, which brought thee out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Thou shalt have no other gods before me. Thou shalt not make unto thee any graven image, or any likeness of anything that is in heaven above, or that is in the earth beneath, or that is in the water under the earth. Thou shalt not bow down thyself to them, nor serve them. For I, the Lord thy God, am a jealous God, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children unto the third and fourth generation of them that hate me, and showing mercy unto thousands of them that love me and keep my commandments. Thou shalt not take the name of the Lord thy God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless that taketh his name in vain. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. 6 days shalt thou labor and do thy work, but the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work, thou, nor thy son, nor thy daughter, thy manservant, nor thy maidservant, nor thy cattle, nor thy stranger that is within thy gates. On 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea and all that in them is, and rested the seventh day. Wherefore the Lord blessed the Sabbath day and hallowed it. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not commit adultery. Thou shalt not steal. Thou shalt not bear false witness against thy neighbor. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's house. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife, nor his manservant, nor his maidservant, nor his ox, nor his ass, nor anything that is thy neighbor's. Amen.
Amen. Shabbat, be seated. Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Asheran, and Tananawa, Par Yahagabin, Tuara Aman, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it. To Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. Do I put you on your rostrum, stand and face Jerusalem? For the opening prayers. Barakatha Yahweh, Hakadol, Rakuam, Abiyah, Wanara'a, Aliyawan, Malak, Sho, Shemayim, Baratiza, Wako, Debarim, Kayayim. Wagam, Hamashiach, Mayahawa, Adawannawa, Ahabnawa, Apalah, Yahweh Yahweh Zakar now, Yahweh, Baratazawan, Aika, Yasha'Allah. Izar now, Bana, Wasak, Yasha'Allah, O, Nanawa, Yum Yum, Aitha, Kaywamyam, Makwadam. Baba Kusha, Shalat, Mayaka'Allah, Wataz Wadak, Alahayim, La, Maganawa, Rapanawa, Rashamar, Alnawa, Ba'akor, Shalat, Haroka, Shaw, Yahushai, Lanawa, Lalamanawa, Rabin, Hakama, Tabawana, Wada'aith, Shaw, the Barka. Bahasham, Yahushai, the water, from Yad, Wailam, Aman. English translation. Blessed are Yahweh, the great, merciful, mighty, terrible, most high power, King of heaven and earth, and all things living. And also the anointed from Yahweh, our Lord, our friend, the wonderful counselor, Yahweh Shai. Remember us, Yahweh, favorably, your people Israel. Help us build and gather Israel. Most high, we beg you, right now, like the days of old. Please send Michael and the righteous powers to protect us, heal us, and watch over us. Mainly send the spirit of Yahweh Shai to us to teach us much wisdom, knowledge, and understanding of thy word. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you always and forever. So be it. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the law. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Athalorah. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us light to see. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Awar, Larawa. Blessed are Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the ram sworn to call the people. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Koran, Hayo, Makorah, Ha'ain. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai that gives to us the olive oil to anoint Israel. Barakatha Yahweh, Bahashim Yahweh Shai, Asherah, Athalanawa, Hasheman, Zayah, Labashat, Yasha'Allah. Yeshua, be seated. All right. Shalom, shalom. Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters that stay throughout the four corners of the earth. Peace and blessings to the brothers and sisters throughout HYK and all the other camps laboring in this truth. We're going to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Power and also our only begotten Savior, Yahweh Shah. When we say that Yahweh, that's the Most High that you read about in the Bible for those who are new. And when we say Yahweh Shah, that's Jesus' name in the original Hebrew, right? So Yahweh is the Most High's name in the original tongue, and Yahweh Shah is our Savior, Yahweh Shah's name in the original tongue. So when we say all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, why Yahweh Shah, that's the Most High and Christ. For allowing us to come today. This is the Sabbath day that you read about in Exodus 20:8, where we're supposed to set aside all our pleasures, work, to come before the Lord, starting Friday sundown as prescribed in the scriptures to Saturday sundown, to keep a day of rest, which is the Sabbath day, to come before the Lord and praise him and go out and try to do good things on the Lord's day, right? And here we are, Hayashra Kanah, that's Hebrew for the congregation of Israel. We are a branch of Yahweh Shah to go and labor and bring forth the Lord's truth in these last days, to go and make sure that our brothers and sisters whose ancestors on their father's side, dating back at least 3 to 4 generations that you can prove on your father's side, fits the description of the history found that is spoken of the so-called Negroes, West Indians, Haitians, Hispanics, Latinos, Native American Indians, Seminole Indians, so forth and so on. Those who are scattered throughout the 4 corners through the diaspora of what we call the transatlantic slave trade, the sub-Saharan slave trade, and the genocide that happened over North, Central, and South America with the natives and the Taino Indians. Those brothers and sisters, those ancestors fits a description of the children of Israel when we read throughout the Bible, right? So we align different geography, history, historical text references, current events, and things to the Bible to give us the understanding of who's who today in the world, specifically to the Most High's chosen people. And because that we're in the Lord's chosen people, we just can't claim that right. We also have a standard to uphold, meaning we have to keep the Most High's commandments, his laws, his statutes, his commandments, try to build up the fruits of the Spirit, patience, virtues, temperance, joy, all of these things, the Most High, in order for us to be classified or called sons of the power, to be prince and princesses, you have to hold up a certain mode of ethics, code, principles. So happy, right? And that's what we get from the Bible. So we get a lot of different understandings that we draw from the Bible, and there's a requirement for us who are of the seed of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, who are the 12 tribes of the nation of Israel, to uphold. So we come on the Sabbath day, we go through Bible 2 chapters, Lord's willing, to try to read and bring forth edification and understanding every Sabbath day. Today, we're going to be in the Apocrypha, or what is known as the hidden books, right? This is 14 books that were a part of the original King James Version Bible that have been taken away by man, but you can still get it in its original form. Like I see here, you have a 1611 King James that has all 80 books in it. I could read from this, I could read from that. It's the same King James variant. We're going to be reading in the book of Ecclesiasticus, or also known as Sirach, right? So we've been reading this for some months now, going into it. And if you know, the book of Sirach is similar to like Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, a lot of wise sayings and proverbial expressions for us to take to heart, ponder on, and make sure that we either fit those things that are progressive for us to lead to righteousness, and avoid those things that have negative connotations that lead to wickedness, right? So that's what we're gonna go through. All right. So I want to start by saying, giving salutations to those who are online. Shalom, Aqua for Warrior. Shalom, Yahweh Kanan, who's here. Shalom, I think Naomi, N-Y-O-M-I, N5D. Shalom, brother La Tuab and his wife, Sister Emma. Shalom, Farah Carl, Job 599. I'm not sure I'm pronouncing that right. Shalom. Shalom. Ahawab. And, Shalom, Elder Zaquan, Shalom, Akwaf Rapakwa, and everyone else who's probably dialing in or will dial in, and those who are on the teleconference line. Peace and blessings on the Lord's day. For those who are new, this is not, a place, a playground. We're coming here to worship the Most High. Be open-minded. Listen to the things that's going to be brought out. If you have some differences of opinion or you don't agree with certain things that's being brought out, you can question certain precepts on the chat that we have here. We do have brothers who are monitoring the chat. If I'm not paying attention to it, they can, address those questions. If folly intervenes in the chat, where you're just playing around and making, gibberish comments and things like that, we will just remove you. So if you want, just lay back and just observe and listen in. You might learn something, right? In the book of First Peter, it says, "Oh, taste and see that the Lord is gracious." Right? You want to just listen in. You might get a different perspective on certain things that you probably had a misassumption of. What this truth that they have is about, or what these brothers are about. Right? You might have had a misconception. Everybody is. Every branch is not the same. Every leaf, is not the same. So you might want to just check it out and see what information is being brought out, and have an open mind. So I am Kahan Samak. This is HYK in Philly. We got different branches of brothers and sisters that spread throughout the United States in different areas. So the Most High's word is like the wind, like Yahweh Shah told Nicodemus, it's like the wind. You can start here and go here. You never know where you're going to find this truth of this word spread. And that's the beauty of being able to have these different mediums to be able to reach to our brothers and sisters that's in the four corners, whether it's in this one, on the teleconference, face to face, through email, text message, so forth and so on. We try our best to get this word out. So again, like I said, I'm Kahan Samak, or pre-Samak. I have the privilege doing today's Sabbath service. We're going to jump right in. I usually always say, especially when it comes to chapters or services like this, that we're going to try to do it judiciously but expeditiously, right? Make sure that we can try to uncover every stone and turn over everything, but also try to keep mindful of time, so that we can also still go out and do a ministry while the day is still at hand, right? Sunset's a little early now in the wintertime, so we still like to get out during the Sabbath day. All right, so let's start off. We're going to be in Ecclesiasticus. Let me put that on the ticker. I did fail to update the ticker. So we're going to be in Ecclesiasticus, or the book of Sirach, chapter 19 and verses 20. All right, so we're going to start off with 19:1. It says, "A laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich, and he that contemneth small things shall fall by little and little." Right? So,
just real quick, Psalm 24:8. What you're talking about tasting and saying the Lord is gracious.
Done. All right, that was a precept. Psalms 34:8 about being open-minded and coming in and trying the Most High's word to see if it's something that fits with you. Again, that was Psalms 34:8. But back here to verse 1. So if you're a person, you might have a 9 to 5, 10 to whatever, work weekends, night days. But if you're given to always consuming alcohol, and you're not only just consuming it, but you're found to be a drunkard, it says you shall not be rich, meaning you're going to be found poor. Like, you're going to have things that you're going to start to lose, things that you should not lose, whether it's home, car, friends. You're going to start to lose these things because you're being consumed with drunkenness. Usually with drunkenness, you're not in your right mind, right? You may say certain things that's out of order, or even do things that might get you, incarcerated or what have you. So we want to be mindful. Again, all of these things that you read about in Ecclesiastes, Ecclesiasticus, Proverbs, and other books of the Bible kind of builds up character, right? If you follow these things, it'll build up a moral fabric in your spirit that aligns with what Yahweh and the other righteous men and women tried to walk. So don't be someone who's consumed with alcohol that makes you a drunkard. There's sometimes people wake up early in the morning and that's all they do is go and drink alcohol, right? Give me that in Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5. Isaiah chapter 5 and verse 11. So Isaiah 5 and 11 says, woe unto them that rise up early in the morning, that they may follow strong drink, that continue until night, to wine inflame them, right? So woe or perils and destruction, right, that will befall a person, that the first thing that they see that they need to do is go in that cabinet and go grab the bottle or hit the bar. Like I said before, there's times when I'm driving up to the school on a Sabbath day and there's a bar on the way and the bar is open and I see people sitting at the bar when I'm at the light. I'm like, Dad, what's going on here?
Breakfast for champions.
Yeah, exactly. And then that continues all throughout the day into the night. And then now what happens? You're in the stupor. So righteous men and women avoid those things. It's not to say that wine or strong drink like vodkas and things are not, or are against the Most High or against the law. No, you can consume things, but everything has to be done in moderation, right? You have to know the time and place when you should go and consume alcohol and when you shouldn't. So that's what it says when we read back in 19:1, the laboring man that is given to drunkenness shall not be rich. You're going to now find out that you're going to, cause harm to yourself and lose the possession of things that you have.
And the example that you just gave, and that's exactly why it's in the scriptures, because some spirit in this day would actually practice this right here.
Mm-hmm. Proverbs chapter 23 and verse 21. Proverbs 23 and 21.
He can't handle it too.
No.
It says, for the drunkard and the glutton shall come to poverty, and drowsiness shall clothe a man with rags, right? So the drunkard and the glutton, right? So these are people who can't control their fleshly desires when it comes to drink and food. It says shall come to poverty, right? You're going to be made poor. You're going to lose things. And it says, and drowsiness, which goes into slothfulness, right? You're always lollygagging, sleeping on the job, sleeping at the wheel, shall clothe a man with rags. It's going to be the same parallel where you're going to be brought to poverty, or you're going to be made poor, right? So you want to avoid those types desires that's insatiable. You always got to do it. You have to learn how to control or harness your spirit, right? Temper those desires and know certain manners and certain tools on how to curb those desires. It's a skill. It's a thing that you got to put in practice.
Man, temperance. I know it's one of your favorite fruits of the spirit, right?
Correct. Exactly. Temperance. That was Proverbs 23 and 21.
That's for verse 19 and 1, right?
That's for 19 and 1. And then that was mainly for the drunkenness. I got another one for the second precept. Proverbs 23, 21 was the last one I just read. And then when it says in the second half, and he that contemneth small things shall fall by little and little. I'm going to read Luke 16. Luke 16 and 10. So some people like to disregard the small things. Like the Spirit always say, a little leaven, leaveneth the whole lump. You just don't pay attention to the little things. And then what happens? It snowballs into a big thing, right? So it says in Luke 16 and 10, it says, he that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. And he that is unjust in the least is also unjust in much, right? So the small things and the big things parallel each other, right? If you're very particular about details and making sure things is aligned right, everything's in order, even with the smallest things, it's going to also carry over to when bigger things come to you, come your way, right? Because you've already built up that practice. You've already made it so that it's, a part of your DNA, right? As opposed to if you're lazy with this, guess what? You're going to be lazy in other aspects. This is again a growth thing, because there's certain parts of our spirit where we might be a little lazy in certain things. I know I'm a little lazy in certain things that deal with what I should be caring about, but I focus more on other things, right? So we're not 100% on everything, right? We have to be mindful that this is an endurance. This is a path to get to perfection, and you got to take it time by time. You got to take it time by time. So you can't disregard the small things to just pay attention to the big things. Big things start from small things, right? A desire, a dream, a thing here, it starts this way. So you got to pay attention to all of that. So you can't despise this. When it's talking about contempt small things, you disregard it, right? I see Elders Aquan put a definition in there: to despise, scorn, or treat with contempt.
Small thing.
Right? So when you are a spiritual individual, you're going to pay attention to everything. Right?
Contempt.
Yes, contemneth. All right, so that's 19 and 1. Quad, you have something?
Yeah, I was just making a quick comment.
Okay.
It's usually people look at somebody's life and judge them right there and there, not understanding that what the person becomes is accumulation of small things that they do or don't do. Right? It doesn't just happen overnight. It's certain habit that we practice that make us where we are, whether good or bad. That's pretty much what it is.
Yep. And if you were that person, right, you can change, right? Just start, this is like an exhortation, a correction. All scripture is given by the inspiration of the Most High, right? And it's profitable, right? For us to go and say, wow, I didn't ever thought about it that way. Let me correct how I handle certain things. Let me see if I could, I don't know how to do that. Let me ask the brother Kanabiya on if there's any tools or principles that he does, any things that he does to try to make, and then I could take that and see if I can apply it. That's how you have to look at all of these different proverbial sayings that's in here.
There's an Edomite that wrote a book called The Slight Edge. And in that book, the outline is pretty much exactly what we say here in the scriptures. And it makes sense. So for example, some people develop some diseases in most cases, is by their diet. And because we're not paying attention to what we eat, we think it doesn't matter. You eat it today, you eat it tomorrow, then it becomes a long time. Next thing you know, you blow up. And then you wonder, man, how the hell did I get to this point? It's the accumulation of small things that we've been doing that get us to that point.
Or what we just said, somebody get a heart attack.
Right.
He's like that. Well, you thought just having that McDonald's burger or eating that ham sandwich, it's not a big thing. And then over time, then it becomes a big thing, right? It could be, catastrophic. So if you paid attention to the small things where it's like, you know what? I didn't know that they was putting that in the food, and that right there is causing me some harm. I'm going to stop dealing with that, right? Mosai said this, and then even the things that's lawful, I still have to be considerate about that. I can't eat red meat every day, right? You got to have a proper balance to certain things. All right, reading on in Ecclesiasticus 19 and 2. Wine and women will make men of understanding to fall away, and he that cleaveth to harlots will become impudent, right? Or impudent. So he would be pretty much like a laughing stock. So you can, we linked this up with First Ezra chapter 4, right? When they made the comparison between the king, wine, women, and the truth, right? And it goes to a lot of different characteristics of what wine does and what women, as far as for the power and control that they would have over an individual, right? In this case, keep in mind the Bible is written to men. So it's not saying like, wine and women. It's like, and then there's a sister reading. It's like, yeah, yeah, she did treat me. No, it's not the case, right? This is written to men. So the influence that wine and women can have on you, a man now has to understand the pros and cons to help balance how you interact and how you deal with both. Because if you don't, they will cause you to be in ruin, right? If they could run over you, both of them, right? Some people in the world they'll call it a simp, right? You're a simp for her. You're a lush for the wine, right? And you don't want to be in that parallel. So Elder put definition: impudent, not showing due respect for another person. Exactly. All right, you can be like, man, let's get about this guy here, because his principles, his morals is off. Like I wouldn't consider a person that way, right? So you could just write down First Ezra chapter 4. You could read probably from 1 all the way down to 27, right? Goes into both wine and women, but I'm just going to pick up a couple of other precepts. Proverbs chapter 7. So Proverbs chapter, one of my favorite storylines when it comes to men and women. Proverbs 7 and let's start at verse 19. Right? This is how sometimes it happens, right? Proverbs 7:19. For the good man is not at home, he is gone on a long journey. He hath taken a bag of money with him and will come home at the day appointed. With her much fair speech, she caused him to yield with the flattering of her lips, and she forced him. He goeth after her straightway, as an ox goeth to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteth to the snare, and knoweth not that it is for its life. So it goes into the storyline of a laboring man, a person that goes out there working, got money in his pocket, and he's going to travel. I can, align myself because I travel a lot, and sometimes when you're out, there's other women that's out there, probably from that location, that's looking for somebody, right? They wait, they plotting. It's like, oh, look at this guy here, right? And then she's gonna bat her eyes. She's gonna do that walk, right? Like in what was that movie that just came out? With the guy played the twins, Sinners, right? And in the movie, the young boy is by the transition, and then the woman walked away, and she did that twitch. You just look in his eyes. He was captivated. He was done, right? For the rest of the movie, he was done. That's how it happens. Subtly. It's just like anywhere you are, this type of dynamic can happen to a man. It's like he said, this is a good man gone. This wasn't a wicked man. This was a good man that's going on a journey, and he wasn't on his guard. He didn't have the covering on. He didn't pay attention to what she was trying to do or she was trying to do. And what happened? He got caught out there, right? Nice words, the touching on the shoulder, right? You're like, ooh, you just melted, right? And then she catches you out there. So you got to be very particular. You got to be cautious. You got to know these type things before you even go out in the world, before you go outside your door, that there's always traps lurking to try to catch you out there, right? And it's even worse when you combine the two. You combine the women with the wine, and you're not on your guard, right? So these are all things to put men, specifically men, on guard, to clothe themselves spiritually so that when they go out, they know how to handle all types of temptations and trials that Satan is going to put on you to try to remove you from this truth, right? It says, hearken unto me, O therefore, you children, and attend to the words of my mouth. Let not thine heart decline to her ways, and go not astray in her path. For she hath cast down many wounded. Yeah, many strong men have been slain by her. Her house is the way to hell, going down to the chambers of death, right? Because once you go in and you lay with her, you just open up a world of trouble, right? You open up a hellstorm that you're going to be dealing with, right? Some men gone, and all of a sudden she come back, I'm pregnant. What? And you like, oh, I got a family already. And now she coming in here, and well, you know, I need Pampers, I need milk, I need $500. You like, what? Now you got a whole hell to deal with, right? So you always want to be mindful of all of these proverbs that the Most High is bringing out, so that you can attend it to your heart. Hosea chapter 4. Hosea 4. And 11. It says, whoredom and wine and new wine take away the heart, right? The heart being your mind or your spirit, right? Whoredom being a fornicator, going out there sleeping with all different kind of women haphazardly, and then you mix that with wine, you become a lusher, drunkard. Man, you know, you're going to be gone. You can be the strong man. You could be, you know, been in its truth for I don't know how long, but if you give in to that, you done. That's what the scriptures is warning you about. It's advising you're going to be done, right? Last one, go to Ecclesiasticus chapter 31. Ecclesiasticus 31 and 25. You can actually write down 25 to 31. I'm just going to read 25 and 26. So Ecclesiasticus 31 and 25. Show not thy valiantness in wine, for wine have destroyed many. So don't think you bigger than the wine or the alcohol, that you can drink as much as you want, right? Or you want to show how strong and mighty you are while you're on the wine. Nah, it'll destroy you. It'll cause you to be in ruin. 26. The furnace proveth the edge by dipping. So doth wine the hearts of the proud by drunkenness, right? Just like how you see someone when they're like making different swords or weapons, and they take it and they dip it in the furnace, and they're trying to get it sharp or whatever. The guy's looking at it, he's like, oh, no, it's not. I gotta dip it again. It's like, ah, you got to try to. That's what wine is doing. He's like, yeah, let him come taste. He's taking a sip. Try to get him again. Get him again. Get him again. And then after a while, looking to see how you're gonna handle your stuff. Yeah, exactly. You having a drink, the drink is having you. And then you turn around and you lay down on the floor. Right? You out, somebody carrying you out. Right? I've been there. We was at Tabernacles, and you know, breaking bread with one another, telling stories. And I was like, yeah, man, when I was in school, I used to drink. I was a fool, right? I was very foolish, as they say. But I used to drink and then spin around and get dizzy after drinking. I fell out a couple times. I was like, yeah, after that, I was charged up. I'm like, yeah, I'm ready to go conquer the world. Now I'm ready to go have fun. That's what it says. Show not thy valiantness in wine. I thought that I was bigger than life when I was like that. Yeah, like you say, it was stupid, right? But now, like I said earlier, certain things that you do or used to do, and now you read the precepts and you say, you know what? nah, yeah, I was stupid when I did that. Let me change that, right? So that I don't have to, you know, look the part anymore. That was Hosea 4:11. Hosea 4:11, loud. All right. Now let's go back to 19:3 now. Yeah, on just that. 19:3. Moth and worms shall have him to heritage, and the bold man shall be taken away. Just like we just read, right? You'll be brought to poverty. You'll be impudent, you'll be not respected, laughed at, talked about. And if you think that you're stronger or too proud, it will humble you and bring you down low. Verse 4. He that is hasty to give credit is light-minded, and he that sinneth shall offend against his own soul. Right. So the second part is self-serving, right? Any person that sins or breaks the Most High's commandment is going against his own soul, because there's a judgment that follows, right? There's grace, but there's a judgment the Most High can bring upon you, rather instantaneously, or he can even delay it, giving you grace where he's looking to see if you're going to change or repent, learn from your way, right? The first part, he that is hasty to give credit is light-minded. So even in that, right, sometimes we base on the surface of fame that a person has. I used to always use Beyonce as an example, where people praise Beyonce. They put her on the pedestal of pedestals today. They say, oh, she's better than Michael. She's this, right? You start putting, you know, crediting her on all kind of levels. But we don't know what principles she stand on, what beliefs she has. We don't know none of that, because you hardly hear her talk about things of relevancy. When there's certain situations that's happening with the people, you don't hear what that person says or what they stand on. They could be supporting what's going on. And then you find out when that person does, so people like, yo, I can't believe he or she is saying that. I thought so highly of them, but you never heard them utter anything that really was of relevancy to speak something of truth, right? Go to the book of Ecclesiasticus chapter 27 and verse 7. Ecclesiasticus 27 and verse 7 says, praise no man before thou hearest him speak, for this is the trial of man, right? So for it to say this is the trial of man shows you that this is what we do often, right? We always credit somebody when we know nothing about them. Just because they got nice cars and clothes and they can sing very well and, you know, they rap fluent, whatever that is, we're going to credit them and stamp them. But then when you hear what they support, then that's when you be like, oh man, now you want to, no, you're supposed to do that from the beginning. Don't credit him or her for anything until you see what comes out of their mouth.
Choice of words that they use.
Mm-hmm.
Their communication, how they use the words. How do they use the word, you know, to strengthen, to build, or if they use the word to destroy, or in what they support, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
Very important.
You could write down two more precepts. Proverbs 14:15. Proverbs 14:15, where it says, the simple believeth every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going, right? So we're not the person under your surface. You hear him say something, and it's just like a one-liner, a sound bite, and you're like, oh man, you hear that? Like, he ain't said nothing, right? We're going to be patient. We're going to observe him time and time. We're going to see if he or she is consistent in what they're saying by their actions. Then we're going to judge, right? Tells you in St. John 7:24, judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. So I have to weigh a person based on what I get judgment from the scriptures. Is he doing this? Is he saying that? Is he going over there? Is he supporting this? Right? man, he's checking the block. Then I'll credit that individual. If I don't know these things, I can't stand or stamp them as somebody who, you know, is an individual who should be well praised. Back in Ecclesiastes 19:5, whoso taketh pleasure in wickedness shall be condemned, but he that resisteth pleasures crowneth his life, right? So that's self-explanatory. You pleasure yourself with wickedness, you're going to be condemned by the Father. We're not condemning you. We can give you the judgment, but the condemnation is going to come from the Most High and Yahweh Shai, right? Nabiyah.
Can you go verse 4 real quick? Job 32:9.
So back in verse 4, you could also link Job 32:9.
The conversation with Job's younger friend, Miss Order trying to speak wisely about Job's situation.
Mm-hmm.
He talks about how what we're reading some of them. Job 32:9 reads, great men are not always wise, neither do they age to understand judgment. Just showing him being younger, he said, let them speak first and take consideration. But it was disappointing to hear their answers considering Job's situation. It came to that conclusion. Yeah. It's not just about how long you've been in the earth. It's about what you were talking about earlier, what you've done while you, even if it was a short period of time.
So with verse 5, you can just write down Romans 1:32. But who taketh pleasure in wickedness shall be condemned. It says, who knowing the judgment of God or the power, they that which commit such things are worthy of death. That's the condemnation. Not only do the same, but have pleasure in them that do them. So they're not only doing the action, right, but they see others doing it and are fulfilled. They're loving what they see, right? That person, that individual is worthy of death, right? But if you resist that, if you hate that, like every false way, like the Bible tells you, then that's a crown to your life because you're aligning yourself with what righteousness is that the Most High Christ teach us. So now, Ecclesiastes 19:6, it says, he that can rule his tongue shall live without strife, and he that hateth babbling shall have less evil, right? So it tells you in Proverbs 13, Proverbs 13:3, he that keepeth his mouth keepeth his life, but he that opened wide his lips shall have destruction, right? So it goes back to temperance again, right? And it goes back to knowing how to bridle your tongue that you read about in the book of James chapter 3, right? Knowing how to control your words, right? Everything does not have to be said. There's a time and place, like it tells you in Ecclesiastes 3, right? You may know certain things, but it may not be the right place to say these things. It may not be the right time to say these things, right? If you just open it like a spout and just saying a whole bunch, you're like a babbler. You're telling things you're telling things out of turn, out of season, as the Bible says. So now going back, verse 7. That was Proverbs 13:3. And I referenced James, the 3rd chapter, and Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter, as far as for the time and place, and the season of all things. You could also write down Ecclesiastes 28:25 about weighing your words in the balance. Let me read it real quick. Ecclesiastes 28:25. And weigh thy words in a balance and make a door and a bar for thy mouth, right? So weigh your words in the balance and put a door over your mouth, meaning sometimes it got to be open, sometimes it got to be shut, right? Or put bars over it where it's just not easy for everything to get out or get in, right? So it's a mental check on controlling the words that comes out of your mouth.
can link that also with James chapter 5, chapter 3, verse 5 and 6.
Right.
Like the tongue is a small member.
Mm-hmm. So we have verse 7 now, Ecclesiasticus 19. Rehearse not unto another that which is told unto thee, and thou shalt fare never the worse. Whether it be to friend or foe, talk not of other men's lives, and if thou canst without offense, reveal them not. Right? So this is like asterisk, 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 yellow, green, blue. You put all colors behind this, because just like you read in James, the 3rd chapter, what we're reading here in 7 and 8 happens all the time, right? Rehearse not unto another that which is told to thee. Somebody comes to you in confidence to say something to you. You don't need to go tell somebody else if it was supposed to be in confidence, right? And it says, and you'll never fare the worse, meaning you'll never be in situations where some commotion is coming out, and then now, who said that? Where'd that come from? Him. And it's like, why are you telling him such? Now you got yourself wrapped up in a bunch of nonsense, right? It says whether to friend or foe. So now you had some information brought to you in confidence, and you probably was friends. You shouldn't go and disclose their information. But now all of a sudden, y'all at odds with each other. Y'all not as tight as y'all was before. So now just because that person is a foe, then adversary to you, you still don't go tell somebody else's business. But in the world, that's what we think. That's the perfect time. Oh, man, we ain't cool no more. So that agreement is breached, right? Now I can just go tell. Let me tell you what he or she told me a couple years back about such and such. No, this is because a lot of times you see people do this. That's cool with you, right? You may see people just blabbing off the mouth, talking about somebody else's business. And you will sit there and you say to yourself, damn, if he talking about him that way and they cool, I know my name is in their mouth. So I'm not going to give them anything. I'm not even going to share information, because this person, they don't have no door over their mouth, right? They're a babbler, talebearer, whisperer, all these things that's found in the scriptures. The Lord said, don't be quiet.
Ephesians 4:29.
Ephesians 4 and 29. Mm-hmm.
Ephesians 4:29 reads, let no corrupt communication proceed out of your mouth, but that which is good, to the use of edifying, that it may minister grace unto the hearers. So if we're going to use words, make sure that we use it to build, right? To build relationship, to build the ministry, right? And let your word be like a sound, like music, melody to people's ears, that whatever you sing is welcome. And people wants to hear it, wisdom. And people wants to hear, people wants to learn. Things like that, we want to use words for. Or otherwise, like you're saying, we might start a fire. A small member can lit up a fire and burn the whole. For example, when you look at the president, you will say one thing, next thing you know, the whole country erupt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Wars start because of that. Just because of that one sentence somebody say,
Mm-hmm.
and then the whole world go to world war.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very, very important.
Yep.
At the same time, we can use it to build, as Ephesians 4:29 says.
Good. You could also write down Ecclesiasticus 22. We'll get to it in couple weeks, several weeks, but this is Ecclesiasticus 22 and 22. It says, if thou hast opened thy mouth against thy friend, fear not, for there may be a reconciliation. So now if you said something that, a friend of yours, a brother, has taken offense to, right? There's an opportunity that you can go and reconcile, right? But it says, except for upbraiding or pride or disclosing of secrets or a treacherous wound, for these things every friend will depart. So if you doing things where it's upbraiding or through pride, and the one that I read this for disclosing of secrets, somebody came to you in confidence and disclosed a secret, and you went and told somebody else, it's going to be hard to reconcile with that person because they're not going to trust you. Right? It says, or a treacherous wound. They got something that was really personal, really deep, and you went and put your finger in it, somebody else. That person is not going to want to deal with you no more. There's a chance they might, but it's going to be hard for an individual to trust you again, right? You've broken their trust. So again, that's what it comes with when it speaks about information, rehearsing not what is told to you, right? And being able to just go out there and be a busybody. So going back to now, verse 10. Oh.
Also, to go with for Ephesians 4 and 29,
Mm-hmm.
1 Corinthians 15 and 33. 1 Corinthians 15:33 reads, "Be not deceived, evil communications corrupt good manner." So it's like when we talk about people being nice,
Mm-hmm.
but then what they're communicating is, like we can see it right here. We posted our listening in. We had a line going around the block outside where we teach. We're doing a turkey giveaway.
Oh, that's what that is for turkey? I thought it was like a food bank. I didn't.
Too.
Yeah.
It might be both. But for Thanksgiving Day, so we see that with the holidays in the world where people will say nice things, right? But then it'll be to advocate something that's wicked. So it's like Esau's big on that, like being nice and polite, as if that's righteousness. It's like, no, depends what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, also speaking, it's like an art. It's an art, like we were saying, make sure you please to the hearer, the person that's hearing. And the Most High, it's a gift. At the same time, it can turn around and destroy, right? And even listening is even better than speaking. It's a skill also by listening. Sometimes I said that, like when they tell sisters to learn in silence, some might not get it. The big picture, it's a gift. Because when you have the opportunity to learn in silence, you absorb information, things that people may miss. You catch it. You get, then when it's your turn to speak, now your words carry weight of understanding because of all that listening and absorbing that information that you've been bringing in. So it's a blessing. But with us, we got to be very careful as men because we have to talk, right? We more so on the line, more so than somebody that's listening, because we always got to talk. So now we got to practice, the art of speaking so that we use it to build rather than destroy.
That you just brought that up. That's like another 20-30 minutes that I want to deep dive into, right, as far as for women keeping silence and what spiritual meaning behind that, what that means. There's some layers to that. But yeah, that's on point. And with speaking and words, like it tells you when we read prior before in chapter 11 and verse 6, 11, 7 and 8, blame not before thou hast examined the truth, understand first and then rebuke. The understanding first comes through listening, right? It comes through observation. Sometimes somebody may say or do something. Okay, he said or did something. I now have to wait. I have to wait and see if this person is a hypocrite or if they actually do what they say. So I got to understand the whole thing. And that even requires me to be silent. Like, I can't say nothing just yet. Like, all right, brother. Okay, I hear you. And then a week go by, 2 weeks go by, a month go by. And I'm like, everything that he said a month ago, I'm not seeing that action. And then I can go and rebuke. So it does take listening or observation to be a critical part of your judgment.
Right. Additionally, sometimes people say, let me sleep on it. I hear it, let me sleep on it. It's something that people think is a cliche, but there's a very important aspect to when somebody said, let me sleep on it. Because as you listen to that information, you absorb and you submerge in that listening aspect. You don't get it, but your mind is capturing the noise that's coming in and your brain is absorbing it. When you go to sleep, that's when your neural network system in your mind start linking everything together. Start putting everything together. Start putting the pieces together. That's why you rearrange it while you sleep. So that's why I said, let me sleep on it. is people don't know the mechanics behind it. But that's pretty much what it means. So because when you after you listen to all the noise, you go to sleep, then your mind starts to rearrange all the sound and put everything in a chord. And then now the next one you say, yeah, based on what you just said, after I really think about it, is your mind actually process as you were sleeping, your mind's process and put everything together.
Okay. Verse 10. It says, if thou hast heard a word, let it die with thee and be bold. It will not burst thee. Right. So if something was told to you in confidence, right, it was told to you between you or maybe three. And it was something that was deep, some information that was personal, relevant to something. Walk with that. Right. You don't have to go and disclose that to everybody else. That's a worldly trait where you got to go and disclose. It's like world star in it. You want a world star every message, right? Everybody want to be the first to go say something to someone else to go get the information out. That's cool when it's something that's, profitable, righteous. If you want to go do that, that's cool. But when it's things that's supposed to be held in confidence, that's also a characteristic trait that the Most High is trying to build up into you, to how to control and temper your spirit, right? You got to know how to do that. And if you can't, then you're going to fit what this is saying, where it says, if thou hast heard a word, let it die with thee. Just put it to the back. Just leave it alone. It's not going to kill you that you cannot not do something by going and saying something to somebody else. You sitting there and it's like, man, but maybe I can just tell. Maybe I can just tell Frank. Maybe I can just tell Frank, right? No, I can't do that. I can't do that because he told me not to say nothing. And then the hour go by. He like, all right, maybe I'm going to tell Frank everything, just a little bit, right? And then he's like, nah. And then you sitting there and it's like, it's troubling your spirit just to hold this word, right? And then you now just randomly you talking to Frank, and then you talking, man. And Frank like, what happened? So, I don't want to say something, but it's some information that if you knew, like, come on, man, you can't say something and not tell me now, right? That kind of, you can't put it out there and not tell me, like, what is it? He's like, nah, all right, all I say is it involves Fred and Keisha. So all I'm gonna say, it involves Fred and Keisha. And now you done gave the subject matter, and now this person's going to start deducing things out of their own mind and start asking questions. And then after a while, because you done did that, listen, don't tell nobody else. It's just between me and you, right? And in your mind, why would you think that person probably would do it when you just did the opposite what somebody else told you, right? So you got to show forth example and say, nah, he ain't ever going to know about it. Let it die with you, right? This again goes to the fruits of the spirit. You can keep the law, right? Thou shalt not eat swine's flesh, and thou supposed to not, a man should not lay with mankind as a woman. Great, you're supposed to do that. But now when it comes into these other moral laws, this is also weighty as well, because like I said earlier, when you don't execute this, you're going to find yourself in a world of trouble. When commotion comes out, who's going to be right there in the center? It ain't probably even about you, but you're going to be the main one in the center because you was the one that was carrying the wrong message to other people.
Something that's fresh in my mind that happened like this week, right? And I'm saying because it's fresh situation that happened in business, and then they brought this information to me, and as they explained it to me, I feel like I was violated. Then I want to call the other party. I say, no, let me hold on, because what I'm seeing coming at me from one side, now I'm completely out. Now I'm being violated. I'm heated. I said, you know what? I'm not gonna call the next person right now, because if I call him right now, what I'm gonna say is not gonna be good, and I can damage the whole thing. I just waited. I waited. Later on at night, and I called the person. I said, so and so, I need to talk to you. I said, you have anybody next to you? He said, yeah. I said, move away from where you are, because I'm getting ready to spill everything. And I said, so and so, this, that, and the third. And he said, yeah. Then I'll pull back. So I let him explain to me the situation. Then I got both sides. And now I said, okay, you know what? If I call him right away, when they reported me the situation, I would have a totally different attitude and I would have just blew up the whole thing. Then I got the perspective and I said, you know what? I'm pulling back. I'll let you deal with it because there's no need for me to even get involved. Even though I felt like I was violated at that point, everything was clear to me and I didn't. But if I had talked exactly, the whole thing would have blown up. So it's like you got to pull back sometimes. Even if you feel violated, you got to pull back. Because at the moment, that's how you feel. And I always take situation, not take it for granted, I take it for a learning experience. But at the moment when they were saying, I was like, something kept telling me, call him back now, call him back now. Call him back now, call him back now. I'm like, nah. Because I know myself, if I call, this whole thing would have blew up. So now I just waited. And the situation worked out where he even forgot his phone home, so I couldn't even get to him. So he came at night when everything cooled off, and then I get to talk to him. Then I get the full picture from both sides, and then I can make a decision.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes down to you gotta when you're in the truth, you gotta take every situation with a grain of salt because it's a learning experience. Because you're not like everybody else out there. You think differently and handle situations differently.
And for me, I usually, for people who are weak in areas like this, because sure, we can read what it says not to do or what you are supposed to do. In this case, is not to do. And for those who are practicing always doing that, and it's like, well, how do I stop? Some people could just cold turkeyly like, all right, well, I'm not supposed to do it, and I'm not going to do it no more. But then that's like in your DNA almost. Like, how do you start doing it? So now you have to now go about other ways of controlling your spirit. And I'll always revert back to what Yahushua told the disciples, that this kind cannot come out but by fasting, right? There's certain demons that you try to fight, that you try to, get a hold of, that surface things may not work. So how to do it? Fasting opens up other chambers that you just don't realize. Number one, you're already physically learning how to control your carnal, lustly desires, right? By just tempering yourself from eating food, drinking water, right? I see that snack. I'm fasting. He's not, she's not, they not, and I see food all around me. Goodness gracious. It smells so good, right? It smells, oh my gosh, why would they make that cake today? Right? And I'm doing my own personal fast. But as you are doing it, you're now suppressing the fleshly or worldly or carnally desires that's in your mind. You're learning how to channel yourself over there as opposed to over there. That's the start, right? And then you start doing other things. So there's always, like we was talking about in class this evening, as far as for, what our discussion was. I'm not going to do what our discussion was. It's like, okay, well, what's the course of action? Like, how do you get to there? You got to start thinking about that. You got to start laying it out. Okay, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try that. And I'm going to try that. You just can't leave it up for chance. You got to make steps to doing certain things to try to mitigate those desires. If not, then you're just going to always trip and stumble over the same things over and over and over.
It's kind of like what Paul said. When I would do good, evil was present.
Exactly.
That kind of remind me of that situation. It's like the instinct, the animal instinct, and the wisdom. Wisdom tell me just wait, just relax, pause, calm down, wait it out, and wait for the time. Instinct tell me, no, you got to do it right now. The instinct part is what's going to mess up the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But wisdom say, wait it out.
What makes this dynamic even deeper is, in some instances, you want to go with the instinct. But understanding in other situations, instinct might be do it and do it now, and that's the thing that works. The understanding is when to look to one versus when to look to the other. It's like weighing those three in the balance, right? As far as your reasoning, your emotion, and your instinct. those are free to make up like our mind, right?
Right.
So it's like when to go one versus the other is definitely a thing we can learn from others.
Right.
But you kind of learn in the moment too.
Right.
Spirit you got.
Right. That's why I said instinct is the animal instinct. It's a fight or flight. If you face danger or fire, automatically, instinctively, you're gonna run. Right? Now there's no thinking. You ain't gotta think because it's a fire, you gotta run. That's the animal instinct, survival. But when it comes to decision making, wisdom coming, because now you have time to wait it out. Because it's not an immediate danger that you face. What's the use? Why you gotta go do something when you can actually wait it out and find more option instead of just quick reaction?
Right.
Well, I know what you meant.
Yeah.
But decision making, that's running up from a flyer is decision making too. But what you mean is like decisions that are a little bit more involved.
Right. And then you have time to pause it out, to think it out. If, like I said, if you face a fire, the quick decision making is more like a reaction, animal instinct, survival, you run. Whereas the wait it out, like so somebody say something, boom, you violated, you feel violated right now. The animal instinct would say, yo, I gotta react right out in there. But that's not the right thing to do. That situation can wait for a little.
And I'll be remiss because in verse 8 where it says, and if thou canst without offense reveal them not, right? Because there may be certain situations where something was told to you and you can hold it, but then there may be cases where you might have to say something because of the situation. So without offense, right? Now, also, if a person comes to you in confidence and they say, listen, I'm about to go harm this other person, or I'm about to go do something drastic, right? That involves other people, that you can't say, all right, I'm not going to say nothing. It's like, yeah, I'm about to go shoot this guy, or I'm about to go rob or do. Nah, that number one, what you're talking about is wrong. And I can't not tell that person or warn that person about what's going on. Yeah, I have to go and disclose that. I can't keep that in confidence, right? And you got to let that person know. Nah, I'm not doing that because I'm not going to be, now the weight is on me. You telling me that you're going to do this, I can't now not know about, I can't know about it and not say to that person. And then now that person goes through some type of travail or turmoil and everybody's like, Dad, that's messed up. Like, why would they do that? Why nobody know? I'm sitting there. Yeah, I knew. And nobody said nothing. No, you can't do that. So morals got to kick in even in that situation where if somebody comes and tells you something in confidence that's supposed to be a secret, that can't be kept a secret because that goes against scriptures.
To go forward to what Nabian said, right? You got to sit right that in there. But like you said, it's based on prior information that you have, right? That caused you to make a decision right that in there. Right. You're not acting on impulse without any prior information. Right. Right. So that's where, you may see somebody make a quick reaction. Right, especially in a case of a wise man, it's not really a quick reaction. They base it based on prior information that they have. But whereas like the instinctive part is almost always animal instinct reaction, and the reaction causes trouble. Right.
It's what you so tried to do with and us too and others working. I'd say like data mining, past information. That's what a lot of these things are doing. That's what a lot of AI is doing too. Going through millions and millions of lines of data, looking at past things that were done. Based on this past data of behavior of these people from these demographics, we think they're going to do this. They might not do this.
Predictive logic.
Right.
Yeah. All right. So reading on. Verse 11. A fool travaileth with the word as a woman in labor of a child, right? That's like a woman who's going through contractions, right? And that pain every 5 minutes, every 3 minutes. That's like how a fool is with the word that's supposed to be kept in secret. It's like it's paining them that they got to hold that word. They got to go out and say something. They're holding it, and all of a sudden, and it's just like they can't contain, and then they just have to call somebody or text somebody or run over to somebody's house, close the door, get some wine. It's like, what? Yeah, we got to sit for this one. And now now you done fell.
I need a drink, yeah.
Yeah.
That was what I was thinking about earlier. Game of Thrones.
Mm-hmm.
When the truth came out about Jon Snow's parentage, and it was Tyrion and Varys talking about it. He's like, "How many know at this point?" Looking at the two of us, it was 8 people. It's just like Varys is like, "This ain't gonna work."
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of went into like his position on as far as who should rule next and everything. But I remember kind of like seeing some folks react to that recently, that last season of that show, and like kind of seeing those conversations again. I'm like, that's scripture. What do we do with a secret like this?
Okay. So you can write down Proverbs 29 and 11. Proverbs 29 and 11. It says, "A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it until afterwards." Right? There you go. Right? A fool uttereth all his mind, but a wise man keepeth it until afterwards. So you patience, that's what we just brought out. Yep. So now back in verse 12. "As an arrow that sticketh in a man's thigh, so is a word within a fool's belly." Kind of keeping that same thing, that it's hard for a fool, someone that's not well nurtured, to now even keep just word information that's supposed to be kept in confidence. Verse 13 down to 15 kind of have a theme to them, right? It says, "Admonish a friend, it may be that," it's a lot. "Admonish a friend, it may be he have not done it. And if he have done it, that he do it no more. Admonish thy friend, it may be he have not said it. And if he have, that he speaketh not again. Admonish a friend, for many times it is a slander, and believe not every tale." Right? So there's a key theme in going and admonishing or correcting, or even just finding out what's going on with a brother or a sister based on what you may have heard or what was seen, right? And you thought that person did that. So that goes into the correction, right? We read this last night, popular verse, Leviticus 19 and 17, where it says, "Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him." So the second half, as far as for "shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor," meaning when if you see something that's wrong, then you have to go say something to that individual. And it might be that what you thought they did wrong, they didn't do, right? And you said, "Well, I stand corrected," right? Because like you said, sometimes it's just slander, right? Sometimes people just make up things. So in order to now weed through all that, let me just go talk to the brother. A lot of times people won't go talk to the brother or to the sister. They'll just continue the narrative that they're hearing. We shouldn't be that way, right? So if it's like, if that's the case, I'm just going to call a brother, or I'm going to see him tomorrow. I'm going to ask him myself, right? And it's like that nobody else thought to do this. Well, being the princes and princesses of the Most High, that's what we're commanded to do, is to do these same things. Admonish them. Go and check it out. Oh, it's not that? Oh, okay, cool. Now I know, right? So if anybody asks me, I'll correct it, because I've investigated. I've looked to go and understand the truth before I said or did something.
And just, I'll just say this too, if it's not, if you may have an issue with this, some folks may have an issue, some folks may not. The anxiousness you may feel too, where you were the bearer of bad news, or the bearer of this news, or you're not just not sure how the person will respond. Like, just try to come out of your own thoughts about it, because 9 times out of 10, you just tell them, they don't react the way as you thought they were. They oftentimes they'll just take it in stride. Sometimes they'll be like, "Oh, you know what? I appreciate you sharing that with me. That's helpful. All right, here's what I want to do with that." And you're just like, "Wow, I was so anxious." Like that might be something that we might fight with, but you're better off just telling the person,
Mm-hmm. Yep. Telling them, questioning them, right? Just digging deep.
That can be a teaching moment for the person that you're sharing it with too,
Mm-hmm.
where from their part they may say, "Oh wow, I never really thought about how things I say and do could be misinterpreted." So it's actually a gift to them also, by you bringing up your misconception or your your preconception, I guess, if you will. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Verse 18. Wait, am I at 18? No. Verse 16. There is one that slippeth in his speech, but not from his heart. It says, and who is he that have not offended with his tongue? Right. So that happens a lot, right? Where sometimes somebody might say something and it's, not the wording is not conveyed the right way, right? And it might come off wrong, but it was not that person's intention to offend another person. It might have just come off wrong. And then the reality is, at some point in time, we all going to do something like that. We all going to take a word and say it or put it in the wrong manner, right? And it's like, oh, you know what, my bad. Because sometimes you're like, how should I say this? Because you're trying to consider your words. You don't want to come off or offend somebody. So sometimes you just babble off and rattle off things that don't come out just right. It's not harmonious. It's not like that apple in the gold picture where it's like, yo, look at that. It looks so sweet.
It's like you try to put together a song, some notes, you put there, you didn't put it correctly, and it doesn't sound right. You try to rearrange it as much as you can, so when it comes out, it pleases to the hearer. And sometimes if you apologize, like you said, you come clean and say, that's not what I meant. You try to rearrange it again so that the song can sound better. But you don't mean no harm. You didn't really mean to, hurt anybody.
Right.
That's important.
Right. And what is it? 2 Corinthians 11. So 2 Corinthians 11:6, Paul says, though I be rude in speech, yet not in knowledge, but we have been thoroughly made manifest among you in all things. Right. So sometimes the speech or the rhetoric can come out a bit harsh. Right. And in the individual, that that's not how he really is. What he said might have come off a certain way. Paul probably understood that sometimes his speech can be rude. We're not talking about just using all types of, obscenities like how we do today, right? That's what some people will like to use that and say, see, Paul said that he was rude in speech. So when people saying the B word or this word or that, they just out there just cursing up a storm, all that because they look at that as being rude in speech. No, sometimes when you are angry or you have a lot of emotion and like you can come off a way to a person and it might be taken away. It might be taken offensive, right? Your tone might get a certain way or the way in which you're using certain inflections might come off like that. Like you don't have to say it like that, right? No obscenities was said, but the way it came off, it like hurt. Like words have an undertone to them. So Paul sometimes would have done that. Even Yahushua was a little vexed at times with the disciples, right? So the slipping of words sometimes happens in all of us. It takes that person the opportunity to recognize it, right? If you examine yourself every so often and you look back on certain things, you'll be like, damn, if I was said to me, I probably felt the way. I probably would have, you know what? I don't know if that person took it that way. Let me go back and check. It's like, yo, I said some things. I didn't mean it in this manner. This is where I was coming from in that. Right. And you have to be transparent and sincere even in that.
And you can't say, if I was in your position, I probably would have reacted the same.
Right.
That's you or the person looking at the situation objectively, even examine himself on that situation and detach. That's what a lot of us sometimes we fail to do. We too attach to the situation and we become this situation as opposed to detach from it and analyze it from a third party. Like, yo, if I were in your situation, the way I said it, I would have felt the same way because that's how I perceive it when I look at it from the outside looking in. That's not what I meant, but that's how it comes out.
I get this a lot, especially from my wife and sometimes from my kids because, I deal with them. I interact with them all the time. And sometimes they'll say, yeah, you said that, but the way you said that, man, like it felt a way. And in my mind, I'm like, I really didn't. I didn't say it. Like, you know, what are you talking about? But it was like, no, you just don't know how your words carry and how they, you know, come or how it's been received. And I got like, well, dang, I didn't mean it that way. I didn't mean it how you took it. I just said it. And it's like, wow, okay. So now I have to try to even be a little bit more choice with how I say the knowledge, right? I'm not bringing out wickedness or saying, I'm just trying to bring out wisdom or correction or whatever, and it carries a certain way with certain individuals. Everybody, you know, yeah, that's life, right? We go through those things, but you shouldn't look to, dang, the brother said that, and you know what, I'm writing him off. That's not who he is, but that moment he said that, but now I gotta go render evil for evil. Next time I'm going to say it a certain way. No, right? That's where that you know forgiveness of our brothers comes in, where it's like, you know what, all right, it's all right. I kind of know, you know, it's not that bad. I'm glad you came and said something to me, and then you were under the bridge.
Oh, class within a class.
Yeah.
When you mentioned Christ, even Christ, I said, oh wow. We could probably take a look at each instance of the gospel when Christ said, thou sayest, and just examine the situation. Christ knowing this too and being like, I do then if I don't, based on the question they asked me. Thou sayest.
Mm-hmm.
Where I find myself kind of using it too, especially when we're at camp, you know, and somebody says something, you know, so you're saying that thou sayest, what saith the scripture? Are you saying what the Bible says? That's all we're saying, right? But the whole thou says, it's like it seems very plain, but going back and see every time Christ said that, it's like, everybody look at that a little closer too.
Yeah.
You know, because even Christ is knowing, like, there's no way I can frame this where you're not going to think, you know, oh, I'm saying I'm God, or saying I'm this, when I am something. You know, thou says.
Right. And in our situation, we rehearsing the righteous act. Sometimes we got to put ourselves on a big screen and look at us.
Mm-hmm.
Big picture ourselves acting that, man, I can't believe I said that. You know, man, I said that. Oh man, that was crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Man, that was man. Let me do a second take. That's pretty much how we got to look at it. Don't take it too personal, too deep when we in that situation, because we all gonna fall to it at some point in time. I fall to it. Everybody gonna fall to it. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So we just gotta take it with a grain of salt. We practice it.
Elder Daquan posted definition for rude: roughly made or done, lacking subtlety, subtlety, yeah, subtlety or sophistication, right? So yeah, you just wasn't careful with the manner in which you conveyed the message. It came off away, right? So yeah, that's that rude, not the not the other cussing type thing, right? Paul wasn't out there cussing like how we do today. And some people stand on that to advocate for what they do. Nah, that's not the case. All right, let's go back. We have verse. Yeah. Rude boy. Verse 17, it says, admonish thy neighbor before thou threaten him, and not be angry, but give place to the law of the Most High, right? So that kind of goes into what we was reading last night in Matthew 18:15. If their brother trespasses against them, go to him, and, you know, between him and them alone, right? Don't let it sit, because if you let it sit, what happens, it becomes a small thing and it becomes a bigger thing. And then all of a sudden you get other influences, and then now you're ready to go threaten a person instead of just communicating with the person. It builds up over time, right? So don't sleep on it. Don't wait it out if you can't just go and deal with it, right? And we see that happens sometimes where, you know, I might have been offended or seen something that was offensive, and I didn't deal with it when I should have dealt with it, and I let time lapse. And certain things build up. And then over time, now when I choose to go and want to handle it, I'm at the point where I'm going to threaten the person, right? Whether whether it's physically putting hands on somebody or verbally abusive, right? Or you're coming with some type of accusation where it could have been handled prior to, right? So that's why that whole series of admonishments, if that person is a friend, right? Even if there's somebody who, may not be closely like coworkers or whatever, you could probably go and say, yo, I seen you did such and such, or you said this, or I seen you, I was kind of confused, just trying to get some clarity. The practice of that kind of leads to it being done more often than less, if that makes sense, right? Because when you don't do it often, then you kind of shy away from it. You don't put it in practice. You don't say something to the person when you should have said something to them right then and there, right? So that series of admonishments just goes so that it doesn't build up to the point where you might be angry when it's time to go talk to them, like you said earlier.
And the whole idea, let me sleep on it, it doesn't always work with people, especially like the scripture says, the mind is wicked and desperate. The mind is the heart is wicked and desperately. I'm saying it wrong.
The heart is
deceitful and desperately wicked. That's why we have to cultivate the mind of Christ, so that when we sleep on it, we get good results, as opposed to somebody may go sleep on it. If they don't have the mind of Christ, they might come back even worse, like you said. You might come back even worse. The judgment that you come in, like things rearrange in your mind because your mind is all jacked up. Even though you sleep on it, it's not going to be good. Right? But you sleep on it as a righteous man with the mind of Christ, you should come up with a better judgment.
Yeah, law of averages.
Right.
You best to do it, these different police dramas, whether it's like books or TV shows. We were talking about earlier, like anytime there's like a case where somebody close to you, gets killed or something like that, they always tell the officer or the agent, "I want you off the case." And it's too close, too close to the people that are involved. I want you off the case because you're worried about the agent, the detectives want to get revenge. Things like that. Not going to deal with it from a justice standpoint. So you see that a lot. That arena.
Yeah, I think there's a precept. I don't know if it's in this chapter or the next, where it speaks about executing judgment violently.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Goes to the same thing, right? Because it's too close and personal, right? You're supposed to cast a judgment, but now you're doing it a little too much, right? It goes into the same frame that you're speaking about. I'll see how far we get, because there's too much meat in these bones over here.
We try not to rush it, but it's
Ecclesiastes,
you gotta just read one chapter.
Yeah, I was gonna say there's a lot of meat in these bones here. Yeah. So reading on verse 18, it says, "The fear of the Lord is the first step to be accepted of him, and wisdom obtaineth his love." Right? So the fear of the Lord, we're talking about fear during the new moon, and what type of fear we're speaking about as it goes into the reverence of the Most High, where you reverence and revere and look to do the Lord's will, as opposed to fear from what comes from doing the Lord's will. The whole first chapter of Ecclesiasticus goes into what this fear means, right? So I'm gonna read that again in verse 18. "The fear of the Lord is the first step to be accepted of him, and wisdom obtaineth his love." So I'm gonna go to Ecclesiasticus 1:26. It says, "If thou desire wisdom," which we just spoke about, "keep the commandments, and the Lord shall give her unto thee." Right? So if you want true wisdom, you can own the first steps to getting true wisdom is to keep the commandments, right? And then wisdom will come thereafter. The Most High will give it to you. It says in verse 27, "For the fear of the Lord is wisdom and instruction, and faith and meekness are his delight." So that's what fear really represents. Keep the commandments, attain wisdom, and keep following what the Most High's instructions are, right? That's what the real root of the fear of the Lord pertains to. You can't say you fear God and don't keep his commandments, right? That's like a parent who has children And the parent gives the children chores. Parent gives the children rules. And the child says, well, I ain't got to do those rules. The parent looks and says, man, my boy, he don't respect me. He don't look to me as the authority. He don't do what I say. But he out there talking about, oh yeah, I love my mother. I love my daddy on the surface. But now when it comes to action, that's not shown, right? So that's how you measure. That's how the Most High is measuring what our fear truly is. So you can go, the whole chapter goes through different aspects of fear when you read from verse 11 all the way down. But I just read from 26 and 27, and it continues on with that. Let's see, 1 John 5 and 3, for this is the love of God, that we keep his commandments, right? So that goes, it ties into the fear, right? So that, again, that was Ecclesiasticus chapter 1, verses 26 and 27 with 18. Verse 19, back in Ecclesiasticus 19, it says, the knowledge of the commandments of the Lord is the doctrine of life, and they that do these things that please him shall receive the fruit of the tree of immortality, right? So the keeping of the commandments is the doctrine of life, right? It is wisdom. Like it said in Wisdom of Solomon 7:24. Wisdom of Solomon 7:24, for she is the breath of the power of the power, or the power of the Most High. And it's a lot. I was 25. I'm sorry, that 24. It's a lot. 7:24, Wisdom of Solomon. For wisdom is more moving than any motion. She passeth and goeth through all things by reason of her pureness. For she, wisdom, is the breath of the power of the Most High power, and a pure influence flowing from the glory of the Almighty. Therefore can no defiled thing fall into her, right? And then as it goes on, it highlights how wisdom is the brightest influence that we have, even brighter than the sun, right? So as we read back in 19, that is the doctrine of life. To be in the book of life of the Most High, you have to keep the doctrine or the law that's found in there. That's how you get immortality, or the rewards that's going to come in time to come. I'm in 19 and 19. I read 7, 24, and 25 with 19. Read it on, verse 20. The fear of the Lord is all wisdom, and in all wisdom is the performance of the law, and the knowledge of his omnipotency, right? So to really understand that the Most High is singular, potent, he's all-knowing, he has control over everything. If you really dive into the depths of what the law and wisdom on the performance of the law gives us, man, you'll say that this is beyond what man's science can really try to convey, right? The Most High is the power, right? Singular, based on what he has shown us through his doctrine, based on what he's shown us through the law, through the fruits of the Spirit, these proverbial anecdotes that we're getting right now as you read through Wisdom and Ecclesiasticus and so forth and so on, to now really nurture your spirit, right? You got the laws like the bones, right? The law gives you the actual skeleton, and then the fruits of the Spirit is all the flesh and the sinews that come with it, right? You're not just going to be able to survive with just the bones, right? You're going to be walking, and then you could probably easily damage yourself, but you got to put the flesh and the sinews to make you flexible, mobile, right? To be able to sustain certain conditions. That's what the skin does for you, right? To cover up the organs that's working inside. So that's what is going to allow you to sustain yourself.
It's like largest organ in the body. Oh, lungs, skin.
Yep. Verse 21. If a servant say to his master, I will not do as it pleaseth thee, though afterward he do it, he angereth him that nourisheth him. Right? So this is near and dear, because I usually always give examples. And if you know Sirach, you know Sirach usually always gives a parallel or comparison, where the Most High is the father and where the children. And we now have, once you're a parent and you have that dynamic of dealing with your kids, you start to be able to understand things on another level. And I used to always give an example, because I've seen it happen myself in my personal life, where you ask your child to go and do something, or you tell your child to go do something, and they don't want to do it, right? And they're angry, upset that you asked them to go and do that. And then they realize and say, well, because he feeds me, clothes me, I'm going to want something later on, I'm going to go get it. So they go get it, go and get there, and then they come back in the room, here, and they give it to you. Right then and there, when that ever happened to me, I don't even care about that anymore, as opposed to the spirit that you just came in here with doing what I asked you to do. Right? That's how the Most High looks at it on a higher level, when he's giving us the law, and you are home and you're like, oh man, I gotta do this new moon. Oh, I gotta do it. I'm going to do it, but I really don't want to do it. Right? The Most High Yahushua is the masters. We're the servants. Right? On another level, on a lower level, you have those who are masters to those who are newcomers, or now being groomed in this truth. But the dynamic is all the same. Right? We're supposed to be, the Most High is guiding our path, so he's not going to steer us wrong. Those men who are now set up to be those who are here within different camps or different schools are supposed to abide by and follow the same paradigm, and say, listen, I'm looking out for that brother or sister's best interest to get them to Yahushua when he comes back unspotted. So I'm caring for their soul. So they need to now understand certain things when I explain or say, hey, you should do this. But if you have that spirit, anybody's going to be upset and angry. Right?
That's the whole premise of us being created in the image of the Most High. So whatever we exemplify what the Most High tells us in the scripture. So that's pretty much where we are on a lower level, being created in his image. So the same attitude, the same treatment that the Most High give us as his children, discipline us, it's the same thing that we would want to implement in our kids on a lower level.
Go to Colossians chapter 3. Colossians chapter 3 and verse 22. Link with this that we're reading here in 21. 21 said, if a servant say to his master, I will not do as it pleaseth thee, though afterward he doeth it, he angereth him that nourisheth him. Right? So this is Colossians 3:22. It says, servants, obey in all things your masters according to the flesh. Now, it was like about a month ago or so when we was at camp, and you still got some of our brothers and sisters who are caught up with the worldly way of viewing servants and masters, as if it's servants meaning slaves, right? The brother was like, yeah, slave. The Bible tells you slaves obey your masters. So we supposed to just, it don't say slaves, right? In this context, it's saying servant, meaning as far as for a disciple, someone who's being disciplined in righteousness, right? It says the same thing in the Gospels. So here, when it says servants obey in all things your masters, those who have the preeminent order over you, according to the flesh, not with eye service. You're not doing it just to please man because of who he is, right? No, as men pleasers, but in singleness of heart, fearing Yahweh. So the purpose that you're doing what that person, that what carnal master on earth asks you to do, is because he's giving you from the Most High. It's instruction from the Most High. These are things that you need to do in order to build yourself up in this truth, right? Then it says, and whatsoever ye do, do it heartily, not begrudgingly. Don't be not want to do it and didn't do it. No, do it heartily as to the Lord and not unto men. So when you look at man that's saying to do this because he's reading the precepts and he's now giving you the instruction, sometimes people look at the man that's saying it. Who is he? Who is this guy? Right? I used to hear all the time, he's younger than me. He giving me instructions. I'm way older than him, right? But you looking at it the wrong way when you think that way, when you talk like that, right? You just came in this truth 2 years. That brother been in this truth for about 10, 12 years. So just because currently you 58 and he's 32, nah, you 2 years old. He's 12 years old. He has the authority based on this to try to nourish you to doing righteousness. This ain't about pleasing men. Just look at the spirit on that individual. That's why I always, give credence. When I first came in, I was that way. One of the brothers that brought me into the truth at the time, he was like 4 or 5 years younger than me, right? And when I seen him on the podium teaching, it was as if he was 50 years old, because the knowledge that came out, I was awed. I was like, yo, this is on another level. I didn't look at him as a carnal man. I looked at him as the scriptures say, a master teacher. Not that he was Yahweh Shah or anything else, but I gave him, the reverence that says, wow, okay, cool, we're going to do this, right? And we did it. Some things back then, we was young in the truth. Some things we shouldn't have been doing, but we did it because we looked at what he was saying as if it came from the Most High, right? And then the Most High would then weed out all the, ambiguities or things that should not have been happening. The Most High weeded that out, and we now grew and matured because we were sincere in this truth. And those things or those persons who did not abide according to what was right, the Most High would move them out. But you got to have this, as it says here in 23, and whatsoever you do, do it heartily as to the Lord, not begrudgingly like this servant. It's like, I really don't want to do it, but I'm going to do it, right? And not unto men, knowing that of the Lord ye shall receive the reward of the inheritance, for ye serve the Lord Christ, right? So that's how you have to view it. Pourquoi?
Proverbs 3:11. I'll read it real fast. 3:11 and 12. And it says, my son, despise not the chastening of the Lord, neither be weary of his correction. For whom the Lord loveth, he correcteth, even as a father the son, in whom he delighteth. So, and another, in the flip side to it as well, Psalm. Let's go to Psalm, to the flip side. Psalm 103. Psalm 103 in verse 13. It goes with the scripture that says, do not provoke your child to anger. At the same time, the Most High is always about balance. He's telling you to, as a father, to do this. At the same time, he knows the right of the children. So some people might not think just because you are children, you have no rights. Right. You should not be violated as a children. You have your right as well. Right? And it says in Psalm 103, Psalm 103 and 13. Psalm 103 in verse 13 reads, like as a father pitieth his children, so the Lord pitieth them that fear him. Right? So you gotta always do not anger your child, knowing that they have right as well, right? Do not treat them like, everything they say is never good. Your only focus is you better behave, right? They have no say in anything, right? So it's and vice versa. At the same time, you discipline them, you show them the way of the Most High, right? You got to also understand that sometimes you can be too harsh on them. Just like Most High, if the Most High were to be harsh on us and with no pardon and with no grace, we would not be. So we got to always do the balance.
We see the superfluous, the exaggeration. With that a lot with our community, especially the older generations. I even think of like even the different comic routines that communities would say about what they did when they were young with their parents. For some reason, the Bill Cosby routine that Bill Cosby said comes up with. He says his mom always said, "I am sick." He said, one time he's like, before she could finish, he was like, "I'm tired." Like he was doing something like I finished a sentence, and then the second later he's like, "I woke up, 3 days later." He finished his bottom line talking about, "I'm sick and tired." For comic relief, okay, we get this funny, but at the same time, what y'all are saying is like, yeah, children have agency too. It's just because the eventual idea is like we said, the whole idea of the scripture said we're training them so that they can make their own decisions going forward when they get old, when they come of age.
Right. That's
so,
right.
So it's your way because you had command over them, but it's a process of getting them to now trust them with small decisions before you can make the big ones. Right? So you might say, "Son, daughter, I want you to decide this one, and I'll weigh it in balance." Right. Like the Most High does with us, and Christ does with us.
And as we see, Yahushua himself, he exercises his right as a child to the point where, you looking after me? Why are you looking after me? I'm doing my Father's work. It's not like I'm out there, messing around and doing bad things and things like that. So you gotta understand that part too. Because parents is always like, you gotta behave yourself. Why are you gonna do this? How are you gonna do that? Right? Sometimes you gotta think, and if you don't do that, the kids will not talk to you on matters that they should be talking to you to help them out. Because now they become scared.
So going back, we in 19, and we have verse 22 now. So 19:22, it says, "The knowledge of wickedness is not wisdom, neither at any time the counsel of sinners prudence." Right? So the knowledge of wickedness, the craft of science of, being able to prosper in wickedness, that's not wisdom. Right? You can link up James chapter 3. James chapter 3. And verse 13. James 3:15 says, "Who is a wise man and endued with knowledge among you? Let him show out of a good conversation his works with meekness of wisdom. But if ye have bitter envying and strife in your hearts, glory not and lie not against the truth. This wisdom descendeth not from above, but is earthly, sensual, devilish. For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work." Right? So that type wisdom, that type character or example is not true wisdom. It doesn't come from the Most High for us to keep or follow and be able to prosper in the world like you see other nations do, specifically like Esau. Right? They covet, they envy a person's property, a person's lifestyle, and they go and take it by force. Right? Like it tells you in Micah 2, 2 and 2 on down. Right? So true wisdom is what you see or what you derive from when you keep the commandments of the Most High. You follow the moral and civil code of ethic that we read about, found here throughout the 80 books. All right, so that was James 3. I started at 13. I read down to 16. Yeah. So we at verse 23 now. There is a wickedness and the same an abomination, and there is a fool wanting in wisdom or lacking in wisdom, right? So you have it where wickedness, abominations is proliferant, right? It proliferates within most any. If you're not in the truth, yeah, you out there. You may not be a fool, but you're foolish, right? Specifically Israel, because you're following whether it be religions, whether it be politics, whether it be the caught up in the rat race and the finance thing. If you don't have the wisdom of the Most High to kind of now guide or cover you in that, you're going to be carried every which way, right? You're going to be caught up in certain these things. And then what happens is those wickedness, those sins that you may deal becomes abominations. Like it grows into, you might have it like, okay, you're doing this, but then it becomes abominable. Then certain things become where you can't even like come back from that, right? Where some people, really take it to the next level of real wickedness. And it's like, oh man, nah, you can't. Nah. I remember I think it was a few months back, even for those who was caught up in abominations, there was a brother who went to jail for being a pedophile, right? And I said brother because he said he found the truth while he was in prison. But when he came out of prison, he wanted to get with certain camps, right? Not to be named or whatever, but he wanted to go down and get with certain camps. And the camps was like, nah, we just can't bring you in, right? Because that sin, that abomination that you did is nah, I gotta observe you now. I gotta watch you from afar. And that brother couldn't see it. He couldn't see that even though he says that he, came out of that, who knows? Like, would you just coming out, you just walking off the street? How would I know? Right? We got kids in here because that was his sin. That was his abomination, right? To go and have a grown man go and be with another little young boy and do that. It's like, nah, we got to be protective. And because of that, it caused him to be, rightfully so, different camps turned him down. It was like, nah, you just can't come in here. You can watch online. You can watch on, listen on a conference line and prove yourself over a period of time. And then he went out and started slandering the camps because nobody would bring him in after he repented, right? But if a man of wisdom, you would know. So you know what? Yeah, the Most High said you got to prove a friend. The scripture said you got to prove a friend. Be not hasty to credit him. So that's all a part of the trust factor. So he couldn't see that, and he just continued to act foolish in that. So there's a progression of sins, and if you truly don't come out of that, then it'll just stick with you. And
like you said, sometimes you may not be foolish. You're just a dormant fool. You know how to handle your fool business correctly. But you're just a fool. I was a fool, when I wasn't keeping most of the better. I was a fool. That's like, people in the world, they are fool too. You may not be as crazy displayed, how to handle your business, but you are a fool. You're not keeping that.
Right. Now, we would say it says in Titus 3:3, for we ourselves also were sometimes foolish, right? Because the reality is, for those of us who come into this truth, that was not the spirit that the Most High created for us, right? When we didn't have the law, we then became foolish. We were not fools, right? Fools would despise the truth. Fools would despise the actual correction, Whereas when we was in the world and now someone comes and corrects you with the truth, like, yo, it's interesting. That's deep, right? Wow, I never looked at it like that. Like, yeah, I used to do those things. It's probably not the right thing for me to do. And then you took the correction, right? Whereas you bring in the correction to someone time and time and time and time again, and they still feel vindicated or validated to do those things. That guy's a fool. Now you become the fool. Fool, I was just gonna say, fool in his heart said there is no God, right? So now it's like you standing on that. That's who you are, right? You that person, as opposed to like people who are agnostic who will say, well, I won't say that. I don't know. I don't know. If it reveals itself to me, then okay, right? Then you say, okay, you're teetering on foolish. You got some foolishness with you. But yes, we all was in that vein of acting foolish when we was in the world based on the lack of the knowledge of the truth, and then the Most High crediting us with the ability to now have the understanding of this knowledge.
So it's like being Jewish.
Yes.
Being a Jew. You're foolish. You wish.
Kansalaki. So yes, Labtwa, omnipotent, all powerful, all knowing, all everything. Kun. Proverbs, is that Proverbs 1:22? Let's see. Proverbs 1:22. What does that say? But the wicked shall be cut off from the earth, and the transgressors shall be rooted. No, I'm in 2. It's a lot. 2:22. How long, you simple ones? One of my favorites. I said, I know this. How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity, and the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. Kun. Right? They hate it. They didn't want to hear it. Despise the word. Kun. That was Titus 3:3. Yeah, 3:3, Titus. This links with where were we at? We were in 22. No, 23. All right. We got 7 more verses in this chapter. So yeah, we might just do one. So okay. Verse 24. He that have small understanding and feareth Yahweh is better than one that have much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. Right? So if you come in this truth and you got small understanding, but you are zealous and sincere compared to somebody who's been in this truth for a long time and knows what's required of him, and he still goes out and transgresses the law, when the Most High weighs in the balance, that person who's new and has small or little understanding is going to be weighed more valuable to the Most High than that person who's been in here for a long period of time, or however that long is, and he continues to go out there and transgress the law, right? Go to Proverbs 16.
It's kind of like with all that knowledge, and that person becomes like you still don't get it. And the person with little, he gets it, or she gets it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of time to increase on the knowledge.
It's like that freshness, and the milk is there, and the importance of like the obedience of youth. You know, wanting to see that in my head. Just kind of get your fingers deep in, you know, what all these commandments I didn't know. As you get older, more mature, more seasoned, those initial lessons can be easily forgotten. So you get into other deeper things like maybe prophecy or history or things like that. Other doctrines that are compared to the truth, and then in those you can get lost in the weeds. To where now you're like, you know, oh yeah, what about this book? What about that book? What about this? What about that? And then of course we have our glaring example of King Solomon.
Yeah, that's why you gotta pace ourselves, because if you season in the truth, always gotta fall back to basic every so often. Because at that point, you know so much. If you're not watchful, you may be bored, and then start coming up with new understanding to satisfy the boredom.
Right.
You know, you gotta be mindful of that. So, temptation on low, temptation on high.
So this is Proverbs 16:8. Better is a little with righteousness than great revenues or gains without right, or without justice or truth, right? So better is a little with righteousness. The same thing as we're reading here, that has small understanding, but the person who has much wisdom, much equity stored up, right, in this, but without right, without justice, without truth to go with it. Right? He's here, and then he's like, okay, you come to the classes, you hear, but you're not really rooted. But that one person who came in here who only knows, John 3:16 breakdown, and he knows that he's from the tribe of Benjamin, right? Based on what he's heard, and he's here, teach me about the dietary law. I want to learn more about the Sabbath day, things that I shouldn't, because I know Thanksgiving's coming up. Can I keep, like, that person with small understanding, and his heart is pure, as opposed to somebody who's here and is like, well, maybe Friday morning I'll slide by over there and get me a plate. Right? He's already thinking about ways to get around the truth, right? Around doing what he needs to do. The other person is really fearing it. Like, the Lord says, nah, I put that person in a higher category. I don't care. He's only been here for 2 weeks. He'll make it. I'll take him. At the end, if Yahushua came right now and he's been in here 2 weeks, I'm looking at the heart. That's what he told Samuel. Y'all look on the surface, but I look at the heart. I know his heart. I had Yahushua create his heart that way. So,
kind of like those who came in at the last minute. And they didn't have a chance to accumulate so much information as you accumulate over time.
mm-hmm.
You have those who over here, they look at them funny. How he come in and do the same, get the same pay as us. Mm-hmm. Right? Listen, the Most High say, I give liberty to everybody. So we all striving for the same thing, the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
So what? They came at the last one. And you've been there for so many years. What does it matter to you? I'm the one to give the kingdom. Yeah. So now you're gonna tell me how to give my gift? That's what the Most High said, right? Are you gonna tell me how to do it with what's mine?
And that's why Christ used that example, right? We need how we think as far as time equals reward, right? Supposedly. I seen this thing on shorts. I'm not sure it's on TikTok or short, one of those YouTube maybe. It's this girl. I'm not sure if she's Moab or Ammon. She's somewhere in Asia, and just trying to win these like kickboxing competitions. All she's doing is doing like this one like roundhouse kick. She's like balancing on one leg. She keeps like knocking down different opponents, right? And you see in the comments people bring up this quote that Bruce Lee had. I'll paraphrase more or less, like, Bruce Lee says, "I won't fear the man who's done 1,000 kicks one time, but the one who's done one kick 1,000 times." She had like this one move, and almost like she was like spamming. You almost thought it was like, is this like a troll? Is it a joke? But she's blooding these girls. These girls getting like nosebleeds, and they're trying to dodge, and she's tearing them up with this one kick. And then you show her like practicing on her social media and stuff, and she practices, through, but she especially practices that one roundhouse kick. It's like she show her routine when she goes down her block on one foot, to practice balance. I just thought it was an interesting little thing, even though it's like social media, but you kind of gain some wisdom.
So you get the consistency of one thing. Kind of reminds me of Martha. Said, Martha, you only need to do one thing. She was focusing on so many things. And then the other one, She was just focused on one thing, and that was sufficient. Perfecting what the little bit that you know based on the scripture, and then move on from there. But practicing consistency. That's pretty much what that example that you said kind of revived it.
It's like a quarter after the service. You have to practice.
Consistency. One thing, just knock it out. Perfecting your gifts. Whatever your gifts, you have to stay out. Don't be all over the place. You lose focus.
Not saying Bruce Lee's an Israelite. I know brothers out there talking about he's an Israelite. We don't know. Just saying what he said. I thought was.
So yeah, man, Bruce Lee Pops was Northern tribe, man. They just dealt with a Moabite woman, man. They made everybody back then.
Kicks like that.
No, he Israelite or not, okay, I'm surprised I made that argument. Granted, but the main reason I'm bringing it up is what he said. What I said. Like, and even if he is a Hebrew, you can put him in that category of Psalms. So it's always mention of Egypt, this man was born there. Got a name, amongst his people. Be always one of us. The same in general.
Lobswab gave a precept in Psalms 36 and 16. A little that a righteous man hath is better than the riches of many wicked, right? To link with verse 24, where it says, he that hath small understanding and feareth Yahweh is better than one that hath much wisdom and transgresseth the law of the Most High. That it can level up into that depending on when we speak of much wisdom. If the much wisdom is like worldly wisdom, definitely the same parallel. You can be wise in business, wise in different endeavors in the world, as opposed to wisdom that comes from the Lord. And you've gained a lot of money, riches, reputation, different things. Doesn't matter to the Most High. All is the Most High's anyway. So the Most High really wasn't care about what riches you may have. That's the a mirage that man puts. What did he get? What did they call it in the churches to gain wealth? Prosperity preaching, right? The Most High wants you to be prosperous, just have so much wealth, money, right? And then when you see certain pastors or reverends or ministers, they want them to have a surplus amount of money, but they're not keeping the law, right? They're not doing righteousness. So these precepts show that a little with righteousness and keeping the commandments is better than whatever riches you think you might have, because they all mine. The Most High can take that away from you like that, or whatever different things that you obtain. The Most High doesn't value that, right? When you first came into this truth and you gave your heart to this truth and you said, listen, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to come in here and I'm going to learn. I'm going to learn verse by verse, law by law, story by story, and try to. Most High was with the Most High and the angels. They like, yep. Right now, he's written in the book of life. It wasn't about how much money you had, because that was not the prerequisite to come in here and say, yeah, you got to have this amount of money in your bank account. You got to donate this. No, it wasn't about that. The first thing was, where's your heart at? And how sincere are you to really now being disciplined and groomed in doing this? And the Lord sees it and he's like, all right, that's it. What you do outside of that, it's irrelevant. What I mean by irrelevant, if you got 5 houses as opposed to another brother's got one apartment, one bedroom apartment, both are keeping the commandments according to the Most High, both going to get that token. Like Yahushua said, that one token. He ain't going to get more because he's amassed so many businesses and things in the world. Hell no, that's not going to be the determining factor. If you went out there with what little you had and you said, you know what? Seen that brother out there in that corner, and you always ask for food. I'm going to give him some food. I'm going to give him half of my plate. This cat sitting up there got all kind of stuff, and he gave half the plate. Don't matter about it. There's one bedroom, about how many cars. It's your actions, what you did. That's what the Most High values. So this is kind of putting what's most important in your life, right? That's what Solomon's Ecclesiastes was kind of like the undertone about, right? Yeah, you you're gonna labor, you're gonna work, you're gonna want to, see the fruits of your labors. You want to go out somewhere and have a good time. You might say, I'm going to take a vacation to the Bahamas. I'm going to go see this Atlantis that they talk about. Oh yeah, you came back. It was a great time. I had a good time. Oh, yeah, I did all. Okay, now let's still get back to what matters most. Right? You did it on yourself. We know you're going to do those things, right? If you have the power, the means to do it. But whether you went or you didn't go, this is still what's most important.
You look at Matthew 6:29. Is it 6:29? You cannot serve God and mammon. 24. Matthew 6:24. And if we all now realize it, the Most High, He knows what He was doing. And this time, especially now, money, an inanimate object with the spirit that Esau put behind it, or the spirit of Satan that's behind it. It dominates the minds of men. It dominates the minds of men. So that's why the Most High put it at such a high level so that we can understand. Because that's the tool, that's the device that the Most High used. I mean, that's what Esau used. Right? And even in it, they put in God to trust. It's a belief system, right? To believe in that money. And we got to be very mindful of all these things because money, again, the love of it is the root of all evil, and it dominates the mind of it. That's why the Most High made reference of it in Matthew 6:24. He put it on that level. On that level, you got kings, you got money. Those are the most powerful, tool that's out.
Yeah, it's like, every now and again, randomly, I'll if I'm in the store, I'll give the $1 or $2 on a lottery ticket, right? Where I'm at, I never play Powerball or Mega Millions, never. I just won't play it because I know what comes with that. I know where I'm at. I know the temptations that comes with $400 million. Because in your mind, you're like, oh man, I got $400 million. I got to spend $400 million. I want to do this. I'm going to do that. Nah, I don't want that. Right? I don't want that. Somebody else may say, hey, I'll take it and I'll do all type of great things for the truth. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do. But you got to be honest with yourself. You got to, where you at, right? You may be a person who has, and I don't, the attention that you're going to get from winning that amount of money. Can you handle that? Everybody's coming at you. Just not, you doing certain things in the truth. You got companies, corporations, charities, everything. They're going to be soliciting, hey, Cancer Foundation, this, donate. Because they know you got that money.
They're going to invite you in their circle, making their wicked decision. And then you think you're part of them. And then all of that is temptation.
Not even that. Now you saying, now I got the means and the money that now I can go sit. Now I can go sit side by side with such and such, right? I'm gonna go drop the truth on them. Yeah. Going to the party. I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna wear my fringes. Me and them like, yo, there go such and such. There go such and such. Yo, can I get a pic? And you in there, you got the pic, and then all of a sudden the guard comes down because you went in with the armor of Yahushua on, but then you done got caught up in the name and Satan done tempt you. Like you remember when you was 13 years old and that was your Hollywood crush. There she go right there. You're like, oh my God, I can't believe that's her. That's her, right? So there's a level of temptations that will come in all avenues. There's certain things where I know I'm not ready for that. I don't want that. If you got it and you ready for it, all praise to the Most High, brother. All praise to the Most High. That's like somebody saying, listen, I have the discipline and the means and everything to have a second wife. All praise to you, brother. It's not me. I'm not there. I can't do it. Right. So you have to know yourself. The scriptures tell you in the Apocrypha, know what's good for you. Right. And what's not good for you. Right. In all things, spiritually, carnally, as far as for foods and other things, you have to know what's good and beneficial for you. Right. You can't, I don't want to project, my capabilities and my limitations on the next person. Outside of what the Most High commands us, we have the decision to say, hey, I can eat bison meat. It's my choice, but I don't want to. Most High ain't saying that's a sin because I don't want to eat bites in meat. It's a choice. If you don't want to eat that, you can eat chicken. It's my choice. What you eat is I don't have to eat the same thing. That's kind of the understanding.
It's a matter of intelligence too. You don't have to be in a situation to make mistakes, right? To actually learn. Right? Some people say, I have to make mistakes. I have to have it to see how I'm nah. You don't always have to do that. You can, it's a sign of a spiritual growth when you can not make a mistake by learning from another person's mistake. You don't always have to make the mistake. If you know you're not ready for it, you already prejudge yourself. Say, listen, I'm not ready for that. That's not me. You don't have to wait until you get it. Say, man, I don't have it. I see what. Some people are like that.
Okay. Y'all can on.
Yeah. Okay. That's what you got to do. Don't hold your back.
1 Corinthians 6:12. He says, all things are lawful unto me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but I will not be brought under the power of any. Yeah, you could, have this and that or whatever, but what you're gonna do? Are you gonna put the Most High first in everything what you do?
Mm-hmm.
If you get all of this stuff, are you gonna be caught up in all your riches and it's like, oh man, I forgot to, I'm not gonna be around brothers anymore because I got something to do out there.
What's that precept that you always like? Kind of goes into yeah.
Oh, 3 things I desire.
Huh?
3 things I desire.
Yeah.
Or,
Was it? Is it that it?
oh, that one.
I was going to ask them to read 10 and 23. That's the pair. Since you're up here. 1 Corinthians 10:23 go with 6 and 12.
Oh, give me not riches.
Yeah, that's the one I was talking about.
Oh, Proverbs 30.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you could read 1 Corinthians 10:23. Okay.
Oh, it is. Proverbs 30:7. He said, 2 things have I required of thee, deny me them not before I die. Remove far from me vanity and lies. Give me neither poverty nor riches. Feed me with food convenient for me, lest I be full and deny thee and say, who is the Lord? Or lest I be poor and steal and take the name of my God in vain.
Mm-hmm. So that was Proverbs 37:9.
And it's funny because that convenient format, that could be $50,000 for one person, $500,000 for another person.
I'll just say you can hit the audience.
Only
Oh. Yeah.
Okay,
Well-
we'll speak louder. No, I was just saying, for what they can hear you. I was just gonna say real quick before you read 1 Corinthians 10:23. That could be $50,000 for 1 second. 1 Corinthians 10:23 to go with your 1 Corinthians 6 and 12. That could be $50,000 for one man, but $500,000 for me.
Right. Yeah. The riches, what that amounts to. Okay.
Convenient format.
Yeah.
1 Corinthians.
So you don't get into that whole, brother, you got too much money. But the thing is, you get too much money for you.
Is it 1 Corinthians?
10 and 23. You go with 6 and 12.
Yeah, that's what it is. 1 Corinthians 10:23, right?
Mm-hmm.
1 Corinthians 10:23. All things are lawful for me, but all things are not expedient. All things are lawful for me, but all things edify not.
There are two ends differently there.
Yeah, edification.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not everything is gonna help you.
Right. It's lawful, but you just know what's good for you. Right. That's the key. Or it may not even be prudent for that moment. Right. That's like sometimes I use the example of, it's lawful for me to have a drink. Right. I can have a glass of wine, a glass of some strong drink, cocktail, whatever it may be. It's lawful with moderation and in balance. But if I'm there with somebody who's struggling, right, who's struggling with the drink, then it might not be prudent for me to go and drink something right then and there in front of them, because I might tempt him to now overindulge. So I might say, you know what, maybe it's not wise for me to I'll just have some soda, not even soda. I'll have some water. I'll have some juice, or have something else, and not that, because it's not expedient for me to do this right now. It's not the best time, right? I'm trying to build this person up. So yeah. Are they arguing?
I thought you were ready to fight out.
No, I thought I said it looked like that when I was looking at the window.
They put it in the car.
No. All right, let's finish up. We only got a few more. We're at verse 25. Ecclesiasticus 19:25. It says, there is an exquisite subtlety, and the same is unjust. And there is one that turneth aside to make judgment appear, and there is a wise man that justified in judgment. Right. So sometimes people may use all different kind of extremes to pervert, the outcomes of certain things, right? And that subtlety of what different types of manners they may do to get judgment to appear in their favor of someone else. That happens on high levels and low levels. In the book of Deuteronomy 16, right? This is how we're supposed to all deal with any matter. I'm going to start at Deuteronomy 16 and 18. Deuteronomy 16:18. Judges and officers shall thou make thee in all thy gates, which Yahweh thy power giveth thee throughout thy tribes, and they shall judge the people with just judgment. Thou shalt not wrest judgment. Thou shalt not respect persons, neither take a gift, for a gift doth blind the eyes of the wise and pervert the words of the righteous. Right? So you're not supposed to pervert judgment. You're not supposed to wrest judgment. When it means you're not supposed to wrest judgment, that's like being partial in your judgment, perverting the judgment. Because I know this person, he's cool with me, I make the judgment a little less, on him than I normally would. Somebody else, I'm throwing the book, right?
You lose exhibits. Oh, we only had exhibit A.
Yeah.
Exhibit B and C went missing.
Yeah. Right.
What? Case unclosed.
Right.
No guilty.
Right. So you got a lot of people who are distinguished servants, what do they call themselves? What's the word I'm looking for? No, like public servants, right? Public servants who are supposed to be out here for the people, right? At different levels, right? And they are put in these positions. They're like what the scriptures say, your judges and your officers. They're now supposed to be caring to the needs of the people. But in certain cases, they also, with subtlety, wrest judgment, right? They now sway certain things, turn a blind eye at other things. Whereas you have others who are advocating for righteousness, right? They're just like, yo, no, I don't care. We're going to do this. And then sometimes they get pushed out. It's like that righteous cop, the good cop who's in the precinct, and everyone else is corrupt. And then it's like, they come to him. It's like, hey, just calm down. Everything, and you're looking around like, hold on, something's not right here. And then you start observing from afar, like everybody's in here is down with this. This is not right. And you go to that one person that you can trust to go have that conversation, and they give you the conversation, and it's like, man, this is bad. Now what do I do? Do I go out there and get on my soapbox and call out the corruption and bring forth righteous judgment, or do I conform? Right? A lot of times, majority of the times, our people specifically conform. Because remember, this system is not the system. This system is not our system. So you get into their system and you're trying to change the system, and you find out that it's hard, right? And then you get influenced to now conform. Some of us will try to, buck the system, so to speak, to go against it, to try to bring forth real reform and change. But of course, the farther you go up, it's like being in what was that? The Masons. It's like being in the Masonic order. The farther you go up, the degrees, the levels, you find out that it's even worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And then all your actual sincerity and what you thought you was really looking to serve or to worship ain't that. And then in order to get further up, you definitely gonna have to conform, right? You're gonna be like, you know what? I'm just gonna, hey.
Like the person that's sitting on the judge's seat, he's a criminal himself. How are you gonna get justice when criminals are making the laws?
Mm-hmm.
This is even my probably sure you guys afterwards. He just got to make it around somewhat recently. He's got Ryan Montgomery. He's like this hacker. And he went to the show and he's talking about how in legal means he like hackers like these servers of like this child predator ring in Virginia. And there were like politicians that were tied into it. And how he put everything on a platter. He said, I don't even need the credit. Just take my information, do what you will. And it was like he's talking to the feds and people, and they're like giving him the runaround, kind of like, oh, we're not sure, we have to make sure this can be approved because the way he got it was supposed to be illegal, this information.
Right.
And just pretty much he tells his story as far as he was fearful, obviously, and for retaliation, like that after him, things like that. But it's kind of what we're talking about now. Like higher up you go, it's just like these judges, these politicians, you might have the one or two that are like, yeah, I'm here for the right reasons, but the congressman to the left and to the right is there for the wrong. What are you gonna do?
Because this whole pedophilia type thing, to us, it's awful.
How we do.
But to them, that's a rite of passage. That's how you gain. I heard that they promise them longevity, immortality, to stealing kids' essence. Mm-hmm. That's how they achieve immortality. So imagine these people on that higher level. That's normal to them. It's normal to them. So it's, to look at it on the outside, you think that's awful, but to them, that's the rite of passage. If you want immortality, as they are promised, you got to do that. That's why you cannot. It's like you said, it's very difficult that you're gonna find somebody that's gonna come out and they're gonna take him seriously. They may make an example out of one or two people, right? Just to show you that's not what it is. We actually, condemn people for doing that.
Right.
But the reality of it is that's a ritual. They gotta go.
All right.
That's not a conversation.
Yeah.
It's came to mind, so I'll look at that recently. Oh boy.
Let's go back. So we at verse 26. Now it says, there is a wicked man that hangeth down his head sadly, but inwardly is full of deceit, casting down his countenance and making as if he heard not. Where he is not known, he will do thee a mischief before thou be aware. Right? So you're going to have certain individuals, wicked men, who appear to be lowly, who appear to be, poor, or, just someone who's just there in the mix, trying to be, quiet behind the scenes, but their heart is full of deceit and they're just waiting for opportunity to catch you out there. So that's why we have to be careful in everything, right? We got to discern everybody, right? We got to make a discernment on everybody. You got to watch everybody's actions. It's funny. I was talking. I was at work and went somewhere with my bosses and them, and they was like, you know, when you go in a room, do you sit with your back to the wall and your eye to the door so you can see who's coming? And like, yeah, I want to read the room. I want to see who's all in there. As soon as I walk in, I do a scan, and I'm just looking at, you know, doing a quick account of, you know, what type of persons is in there. I'm looking at attires. I'm looking at, you know, the glaze in the eye. I'm looking at all that very quick. And then as I sit down, then I start honing in on certain people and just watching them from afar, but not really directly looking at them, right? You just do that. It's just like intrinsic things that you just kind of do to just be, you know, pertinent of everything that's going on around you. And this case here shows you that type spirit is out there, lurking, waiting to get an opportunity or new. So now if you know, that's like somebody said, there's going to be somebody, we're going to have like 100 people in here, it's like 8 of them that fits this build. That's always, all the time, right? You're going to always have that. Somebody coming in your business, you're going to be like, you're going to be checking them out. They're coming in for you to do the work for them, but you're still checking them out. As often as they come through, what they say, how they go about it, how they receive information from you. Oh, man, like you checking all that out, right? So this type of spirit is there, and you just got to be mindful of it. It says, and if for want of power he be hindered from sinning, but at that moment he can't do what he need to do because, you know, he doesn't have the opportunity. Yet when he findeth the opportunity, he will do evil, right? He just biding his time. Yeah, sleeper cell, just waiting, right? Just waiting it out. It says, a man may be known by his look, like what we were just talking about, and one that hath understanding by his countenance when thou meetest him. Right? So it says a man may be known by his look. Doesn't mean that every time you see an individual, you're going to be always 100% on point and just be able to discern who that person is based on his look or his attire. It said it might be the case, right? You going out sometime in the middle of the night and you driving and you see a sister walk with pantyhose on and high heels, you know, off the bat, like, okay, I know what this is. I don't see no camera, no movie set around here. So yeah, she out here selling something. Yeah, right. Yeah. So well, either that too, right? Trying to catch you out there. So you got to have discernment, but it doesn't always mean every time you're able to see somebody. It could be that, you know, they just ignorant. They don't know what they're doing. It's like, you know, why are you wearing that? What's wrong? I can, you know, wear, you know, there's nothing wrong with it. And then you give wisdom behind why that's not good. And they may take it as correction. He's like, oh, I never thought about it that way. I appreciate you telling me something like that.
Like you said, you got to be circumspect to everybody, but sometimes they're not easily detected.
Right.
So for precaution, you watch everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But some of them, they very good at disguising,
mm-hmm.
you know, because they learn us how we would react when they practice it. So you got to be watchful. And
that's why in certain schools, the large schools, they take the precautions that they take, right? Where it's like, yo, I need to understand your driver's license. I need to know where you work. I need to know all these things. I'm patting you down. I don't know who you are, right? Because like you said, people have alternative motives and agendas, right? I'm coming in with my Bible, but yeah.
You know, this guy, somebody, that's the one you gotta.
Yeah, right. Because they're paying attention. They're like, oh, I see all the deacons and I see that guy. And this guy, he's a captain, about to be a deacon, but he's going through some things. All this information is thrown in, right? If you coming in covert like that, which, you know, some camps have said happened, right? Whether they get approached. So now you have to be a little bit more precautious on somebody knocking on the door, right? And somebody might say, you want to come in here? All right, come back next week. Give me information. Let me vet you. Let me find out. I got brothers who got, you know, no little little something online, I'm gonna check you out first. You know, see what's going on with you. Some people think that, right?
BBC with all the cameras out there. Hold up.
Like Big Brother.
No, I'm saying, you know, BBC out there with all the cameras and all the people that want to come in and ask all kind of questions on camera.
Oh yeah, British Broadcasting. Yeah. British Broadcast. Yeah, British Broadcast Company. Yeah, but yeah, you have to, you know, it's just saying in 29, it's just saying that you can, you know, do a visual discernment just based on what you see, but still apply John 7:24. Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. You can take that as consideration, but you still want to take righteous judgment on how you may, you know, characterize or classify somebody. It's like, you know, you out here with your chest out and what are you doing? Hey, I might ask, what are you doing? Listen, my baby's is home. I gotta feed my dog. So you out here prostitute. So you out here, and you're like, oh, I know. I see the friend. I know. I shouldn't be out doing. So you gotta take the necessary steps. But this is what we do. We prejudge, right? The reality is we prejudge, and these are the things that goes into prejudging. Last verse is a man's attire and excessive laughter and gait show what he is. Right? The clothes that he got on. He's the center of attention. He's overt with it, and everybody's like, "Dang, yeah." The way he walks in the room, right, with the clothes on, yeah, or attract you for a certain, even for another reason. Right. But yeah, it's like you sitting there, you like you're in the midst of your conversation. All of a sudden, you out the corner of your eye, you see somebody come, you like, "The heck is this?" This guy come in, you know, with excessive clothes on, and he's making all kind of boisterous things. You're like, okay, yeah, something ain't right with this. Something ain't right with this. It doesn't fit the spirit that we know comes with this, because you know, normally you got to be humble, right? You're going to come in, you're going to be a little bit meek, you're going to be quiet, you're going to be observing things. You're not coming in with excessive laughter and all of that type stuff, right? That's not in every setting, because like if we hear with the new moon and we are in his storytelling and we going in different things, yeah, we're gonna have a good time. But it's speaking generally when you're out there in the world, how you start to measure the scene and start to classify certain individuals. Like, oh, that guy, I need to pay a little bit more attention. I gotta know what's going on with him, right? I'm gonna listen to him for a little bit. I'm gonna hear what words he's speaking about, what he's advocating for, right? I'm gonna watch him. Next time he come in, wow, that attire is even more lavish than the last one, right? He's still the butt of all the jokes. Like, what's going on here, right? So you got to pay attention to a lot of these spirits, you know, to judge spirits. That's a gift in itself, to be able to judge spirits, see what's really going on with that person, right? If they're really sincere, if they're in the up and up. All right, so that was the 30th verse of the chapter 19. I think, as we alluded to earlier, we're going to split this up because it's already almost 3 hours in. We're going to do chapter 20 the next time that we come back in 3 weeks. Yeah, in 3 weeks we'll do chapter 20. So we'll strike that for today, and then come back. Next week we're going to be in the Old Testament, off the top, 2 Chronicles 5 and 6, right? 2 Chronicles 5 and 6 for next week's Sabbath service. So as we talked about earlier, we're in the 3rd day of the 9th month. Keep in mind that there's our holy day week coming up, which is going to be Hanukkah, or as we say, Hanukkah, right? It's going to be Saturday, Saturday, December 13th within this month. Saturday, December 13th is going to be the opening of Hanukkah. So if you don't have a high holy day calendar, mark that. we'll definitely have a service that night. And I think the following week, the Friday night, I think, is the 10th new moon, if I'm not mistaken, because we usually always have a new moon in the week of the feast of Hanukkah. So Most High's will, we're able to fellowship and see the brothers and sisters for that holy day. As always, we'll do a little bit housekeeping for those who listen to the class, the Sabbath service class today. If you had any comments or questions, please have them written down. You can bring them to the classes on Tuesdays and Fridays, 7 to 10 approximately, because I say some approximately, sometimes we go beyond that, but 7 to 10, you can join on the teleconference line. The number is scrolling on the marquee there, 667-770-1085, and then the PIN is 521455, 521-455. Preferably, if you're able to, you can log on to the Zoom call, which is profitabletalks.com. Again, that's profitabletalks.com, where we prefer that, you can still do the same thing, dial in, log in, I should say, with all your questions, comments, or if you have none, you can still just listen in on the class and try to receive as much edification and information that's being brought out. But those who want to keep this truth going, to donate for the upkeep of us being able to fellowship and teach classes here in this residence here, you can donate by check or money order to Hayashra Kanas. The address is there as well, 3826B Germantown Avenue, 19140. If you like to do it or prefer to do it digitally, you can do it through PayPal. You could do it through Zelle. That's paypal.me/HYK12, paypal.me/HYK12, or you could do it through Zelle. The number is 646-620-7378. And anything, of course, if you missed it, it's too fast. This is on Zoom, on YouTube, so you can always just go back once we conclude this Sabbath service. After about 5 minutes or so, it's uploaded, and you can go back to it. All right. So as always, try to like and share. If there's certain topics that we do throughout these Sabbath services, we kind of put them in frames. You can always revert back or share this with somebody else that's looking to get edified in this truth. We always want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High in Christ for allowing us to come together today on the Sabbath day to go through the chapter that we went through today, and allowing us to hopefully be fulfilled in this truth. We always say Shalom, happy Sabbath to the brothers and sisters, as we are about to close out and do the closing prayers. All right. So again, Kahan Samat and Thawada for allowing me to go through the scriptures with you this morning or this afternoon. All right. So stay tuned for closing prayers. Ashar Shabbat, which in Hebrews means happy Sabbath. Barakata Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Asherah, Nathalanawa, Par Yahagapin, Thwada Aman, La Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shah, Ath Yasha Allah. English translation. Blessed are you, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, that gives to us the fruit of the vine. Thank you, so be it, to Yahweh in the name of Yahweh Shai with Israel. I might upon you on Jerusalem, stand and face Jerusalem for the closing prayers. Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Baba Kushai, Shemai, Lanawa, Aitha, Yum Yun, Aitha, Shalat, Maika Allah, Waha Alahayim, Latazudakim, La, Shema'il, Barat, Rapah, Magun, Wakaziyat, Bunya, Yasha Allah, Rashalat, Lanawa, Rabim, Kakama, Rabim, Da'aith, Rabim, Bayana, Rabim, Sabalanwa, Rabim, Amawan, Rabim, Aqua, Rabim, Ahabim, Rabim, Haganah, Rachanaya, Rasalat, Ko, Kata Yemnawa, Laha'akim, Wayasha Allah, Thamyad, Waiwalam, Bahasham, Yahawashai, Thawada, Amun. English translation. Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, please listen to us now, right now. Send Michael and the righteous powers or angels to watch over, bless, heal, protect, and make strong the children of Israel. And send to us much wisdom, much knowledge, much understanding, much patience, much faith, much brotherhood, much love, much spiritual protection. And forgive all our sins for the brothers and sisters in Israel, always and forever. In the name of Yahweh Shai, thank you, so be it. According to prayer. Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Barak Nawa, Wayasha Allah, Wabati Asapayim, Shema, Yasharallah, Yahweh, Allah Hayanawa, Yahweh, English translation, Yahweh, in the name of Yahweh Shai, bless us in Israel in the house of books or schools. In Deuteronomy 6:4, Hear, O Israel, the Lord our power is one power. And again, we'll say Ashar Shabbat. Have a blessed and remaining Sabbath day, Israel. Everybody stay safe, stay prayed up, and Lord's will, we'll hear and see each other next week. Shalom.
Shalom.